Powered by Riverside FM.
The future perfect is a construction used to describe an event that is expected or planned to happen before a time of reference in the future. It is a grammatical combination of the future tense, or other marking of future time, and the perfect, a grammatical aspect that views an event as prior and completed. For example, a sentence such as, "I'll have made dinner by 6 PM. What a name to choose then for the third and, so far, final game in the TimeSplitters series. Having won over games writers and players with their earliest efforts, but never quite materialising the sales the developers believed they deserved, perhaps the stars would finally align for Free Radical Design Limited and what would be their biggest outing. What was now rock solid in TimeSplitters 2 gave them the opportunity to add more polish elsewhere, as well as include online multiplayer, which was now becoming the standard. As other developers sought to experiment with what the FPS genre could do, Free Radical could also show just how well they could ape their competitors, adding elements like vehicles, NPC companions, and even an ability that calls to mind the gravity gun of Half-Life 2. The bet was a game that could do something for everyone, all pressed to a single DVD. But what Free Radical needed most was a publisher that could champion their titles without getting directly involved. They settled on American super publisher Electronic Arts. What Free Radical weren't to know is that their last attempt at getting the TimeSplitters brand to hit the mainstream would be undone by a ghost of their past. Perhaps then the future wouldn't be as certain as their subtitle alluded to. But now that the future is the past, how does their now fourth outing as a studio fare in the present? On this episode of Bullet Time, we continue our mini-series on the games of Free Radical Design Limited with 2005's TimeSplitters Future Perfect. Now, you pointed out your audio pads earlier and you have them all over the place. Is that a poster of Kiryu from the Yakuza series Smooching Majime?
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice.
That is my Kazumaji poster.
I was watching your Sagawa video earlier on, and I didn't even piece together what that poster was.
Yep, yeah. At some point, I'll give you guys a close up. It's my girlfriend. My girlfriend bought it for me for a birthday present. It was a gag gift, but it was also like it's a gift. It's
It's riding the line between.
Snake, I know you. Aren't you covering the Yakuza series like extensively at this point?
Yeah. I'm up to 0, doing it in release order, and next year is 6 and Kiwami 2. So I've got my work cut out for me, and I might do the judgments at some point. I've been asked that for the last several years. I don't even know.
Yeah, that's content for the next 5 years.
Oh, God.
I think I'm done at Like a Dragon, just so I don't run out of stuff to say.
Yeah,
But
makes sense.
I'm deep in there.
I feel you. Yeah, I only discovered it last year, and so
Yeah.
But I barreled through 5 of them last year, so.
Oh
wow.
Christ. What order did you like hit them in?
I started with Like a Dragon.
Okay.
Because that was the one, like, it's the new one. I just saw a trailer at one point, and it was a lobster was flying towards a man and attacking his nose.
Oh, did you see the like American Thingy trailer where it's cut like an early 2000s comedy with like the upstepper? Just
Yes. Yeah. And so I saw that, and I picked it up for like $40, like early 2021, and I just, no expectations, and by the end, I was fucking sobbing. Like, by the fucking coin. James, have you played Like a Dragon?
No, so Snake has been saying for years,
I've
play these
failed
games.
to sell him on it for 3 years. I think it's a lost cause.
5, I think probably 5 at this point. I would have thought.
Maybe it's been a long failure.
No, so I was like, I'll start with Yakuza 0, because, like, that's the... Even though it's a prequel that does tie into stuff with 1, it is a hopping on point, but it's just...
It's a safe hopping in point. I'm not... Yeah. I started the series at 3, so I never judge anyone's fucking starting points.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I picked it up on...
Interesting point.
I was on a shitty, like, countryside holiday with my parents, and I had a PS3, and I saw it, like, secondhand. I was like, oh, I've heard good things about Yakuza. And I blew through it. Didn't really appreciate it too much. Played 4, and then I was in.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And then I played 1 and 2 afterwards, and 5, and... Basically, it's a mess, and I think it's proof that you can kind of get into a series any fucking direction if you care, if you want to, if it's like doing a good enough job.
So I do need to get around to them at some point, but I've played like a couple of hours of 0, but most of that was, they have an arcade. Oh, it's full of emulated arcade games. I guess I'm just doing that now.
Yeah, I'm just playing 1990s arcade games now. What is this?
Yeah, I'll just play Outrun, even though I could download a ROM of Outrun and play that on my own PC. But I like the idea that
could you play it to take part in a business war?
Good point.
And when you boot up normal Outrun, you don't get a cutscene of Kiryu sitting in an arcade machine and jerking forward the machine, going, "Huh!" and you get a pan in. Like,
it did get me into Space Harrier and like
interesting.
And Fantasy Zone. I liked both of those at the end of it.
Second question then. How do you feel the Yakuza games compared to the game that we're talking about today, which is... Oh, by the way, hi folks, welcome to Bullet Time, the video game podcast where we covered the shooters that missed their mark. And we're continuing on our mini-series of the games of Free Radical Design Limited. And we've actually got to the game that this mini-series is named after, which... We've done, 3 episodes of this, Snake, and I don't think I've actually mentioned what the mini-series' name is at any point.
I can't even remember. I genuinely can't. But you know what? It's fine, because I kind of disagree with the title of this mini-series, Future Perfect, because the future we're heading towards is anything but. We're still in the safe zone right now, but...
So it turns out that a Future Perfect, I had to look this up, it's like it's a grammatical thing. It's to do with, when you write a sentence, it's something to do with future tense or whatever, but it has nothing, it's nothing to do with,
this is not a game full of grammatical wordplay.
It has got wordplay, it has got some wordplay.
Bits and pieces. It's a very... We'll get into the comedy of this.
It has, but first things first, so... welcome into the podcast, as usual. It is co-host for this series, the Jacob Crow of YouTube video. Oh, I fucked that up. YouTube's very own Jacob Crow, TehSnakerer.
I do intend to live forever, and I am willing to fuck up the timeline to do it.
And work with a younger or older version of yourself to do so.
Oh, yeah.
Easy. But also joining us on this podcast is video maker for the YouTube channel Purposeless Rabbitholes. How do you want to... Should we refer to you by Charlie, the name that you've used on the... Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. I think I've opened up a couple videos with, hey, this is Charlie from Purposeless Rabbitholes. Yeah.
There we go.
But
awesome stuff. So, Charlie, quick question.
Mm-hmm.
The Yakuza series, TimeSplitters, Future Perfect. Which is better?
Well, that is about the most insane question I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's a very... that's apples and oranges.
But... Which is better, apples or oranges? Which would you rather?
It's a time of day kind of thing.
Okay.
Because, but I mean, look, if I had to pick a game on a desert island that I'm only going to get to play for the rest of my life, it's this one game. And if it's between Yakuza and if it's between TimeSplitters Future Perfect, no choice. It's TimeSplitters Future Perfect.
Oh, wow, okay.
Easy. I don't know what I'm walking into here. I don't know what the opinion of either of you is on TimeSplitters Future Perfect, but me personally, I think this is about to get interesting.
It's going to be interesting. Here's my way of putting it, because you're a guest, you're coming in, and obviously the episodes haven't gone out yet. And I played 2 and 3 as a kid.
Same.
And I really enjoyed them both. Really, really loved 2. Like, so many hours lost 2. Didn't play Future Perfect as much, because basically by that point, it was 2005, the friend that I was playing TimeSplitters with, we moved on to Counter-Strike Source, we were playing Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, and other mates we'd started playing like Halo 2 online. So not as much time into Future Perfect, but I remember having fun with it. I beat the single player, I did all that. Coming into it, and like James beat all the games way before I did, because he's gone through months of just playing good and bad. And
mostly bad.
I just play the games that I'm about to be on an episode on. Like I played Future Perfect a few weeks ago, but leading up to it, I just kept saying, "Oh yeah, I'm getting Future Perfect." Whenever I was talking about any of the other games, James would be like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna have fun, you're gonna have fun." Whenever I mentioned Future Perfect, you got a bit colder, and I was like, "Why is he coming off a little cold here? Why is he coming off? What's the thing here?"
Ooh.
So, it was very intriguing, and going right from 2 to Future Perfect, it clicked.
So here's the thing, Charlie. Before we started the episode, Snake and me kind of decided, let's tune the episode a little bit depending on what your opinion is on it, because at the end of the day, you know, guests are guests. Like guests, they are the people who.
It's good to have a different opinion. It would be
exactly
and boring if it was the Circle Jerk Club.
And you know what? I hope this episode. I hope much like what happened with Legendary when I went in being like, not a massive fan of this, but then Nevin, the guest that we had on, was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna like turn you around on Legendary," and they did. Like towards the end, I really did warm up to it. Here's the thing, and it's really funny because when I asked Snake, well, do you want to do a Free Radical mini series? He was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I loved their games like back in the day and stuff like that." I had played none of their games when they were out, like when they were coming out. The only game that I had played when it was released was Future Perfects. That was, for the longest time, my first TimeSplitters game. So I was coming in right at the end of the franchise and like essentially getting what was, quote, the perfected version of, well, you had the first one and then 2 improved on that, and then theoretically 3 is the next step on from that. And I remember playing it and I really liked it because probably something we'll dig into a little bit as well is that it was very similar to like other FPS games that I had played at the time. But I really liked all the kind of time splitteriness of it. Like I liked the writing of it, I liked the look of it, and like even just the time travel element, like you could have all these different time periods and stuff. Like I had never played a game like that before, and I was like, oh, this is great, like awesome, really, really into this, and all the extra modes and stuff like that. And that was 2005, and then 17 years later, where I decided, let's do this mini-series. And like I heard about all the other TimeSplitters games, and so you have TimeSplitters 1, where it's like, this is okay, but it is very much a prototype. It is a game that they made in 16 months, because they basically went to IDOS and said, we don't want to do the game that we originally promised, and they said, well, that's what we've agreed to. So they went to Sony and said, we want to do this other game instead. And they said, you absolutely can, but you have to do it for the PS2 launch. And they were like, okay, fine, absolutely. And that's how you end up with TimeSplitters 1. And it's a really, like, I mean, I think we were quite warm to it when we did the episode, Snake, which was...
TimeSplitters 1 has a very unique pace and identity. It's not a candle to the other games, but you play it and it's a really good action scene simulator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's always the vibe I got. I have actually Future Perfect, full disclosure, one of my favorite games ever. And the first, but I have not played the first TimeSplitters. Never.
Interesting. Have you played TimeSplitters 2 though?
Oh yes, that's the one I started with.
Okay.
So you went from 2 to 3, and do you like 3 to 2?
I do.
Okay,
I do. I think 3 improves on 2 in every single way, brothers.
Oh wow. Okay, because.
This is going to be a very interesting change, James. The energy
of this episode is great already.
I'm
into it because I had never played TimeSplitters 2, and like you haven't listened to the TimeSplitters 2 episode that we did with.
Nope. It was
Mr.
basically like endless praise, except for a couple of levels.
What was Mr. Hammond on that one? Sweet, hell yeah.
Yeah. What was the insane thing that I said on that episode, which was like, this game should be like the FPS like equivalent of Tetris, as in anytime a new console comes out, there should be TimeSplitters 2.
Yeah, and I thought you meant like there should be like it's a fucking Smash Brothers. Each generation of TimeSplitters. You said no. I don't want anything else. Just put TimeSplitters.
Just specifically,
redo it.
But here's the thing with 2, it's like you only have to really like, because of the way that the game is designed, you can staple stuff on quite easily. Like, you don't have to go and like completely redo it, you know. So I guess maybe the Smash Brothers thing kind of makes sense, because like fundamentally it doesn't change. It's just that they sort of tweak the variables with each one, but it's essentially just adding more onto it. But yeah, like TimeSplitters 2, TimeSplitters 2 was like the best game that I have discovered doing this podcast, and I was like, this is astonishing. And then I played Future Perfect, and it was really nice.
Imperfect.
It's basically like the way James has put it to me off mic. James, we're not allowed to talk anymore privately because it's all content now. Whenever
no, exactly, it's just it's all really good. Put it behind a paywall.
Basically, Future Perfect would be the best game in any other series.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I get that.
Like, it's rough competition, and I can see like where people who prefer Future Perfect come from, because it's tightened up. It's still everything that's good about it, but it plays smoother. You've got better map making tools. You've got more freedom in the arcades. There's just something about the character. This is the most hair-splitting thing. There's something about the character of it. It's like I'm talking about a fine wine.
That's interesting.
I mean, I guess jumping right into the single player, TimeSplitters 2 is every level is a distinct entity, and it kind of plays a little different, and and that's not always to its benefit, because some levels are terrible, some are really bad, but it's bitter with the sweet, and I'm very into bitter with the sweet, and even though I hated playing some of them, like, I love how varied this was, and this instead is and the story of it is just a framing device. It's like, hey, we have this portal, we got to go through time, get the crystals, come back. So every stage is this weird, distinct thing. This is instead I'm not saying this is a diminutive, this is a screwball time travel comedy, and it's very linear, and Cortez is very front and center, it's very character focused, and Cortez is a sort of comedy protagonist, and I really love him. I really think he's really funny.
I would love to talk about Cortez.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cortez is just absolutely tons of fun. There's one joke I feel which is a bit weird, but we'll go into a bit later.
But that is a thing. This game is a very 2000 series.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a very 2005 game. TimeSplitters 2 is a very 2003 game. Like there's some content in there that you look at, like you pick any woman character and she starts twerking. Like and this character on like screen. It's like, all right, okay, I
mean, you jump to one level and like. This brought me back in time. There's a haunted mansion level with, I believe her name is JoBeth Casey, because there's
with slut right across.
And she was actually one of my favorite like companion characters.
I love her.
Genuinely funny.
It's really funny because like you initially hear from it and you go, oh, this is like. And this has been a funny thing as well that, like, me and Snake have sort of, like, noticed going back and playing all of them back-to-back, which is obviously Free Radical, they're all ex-Rare devs. And a lot of the humor, like, kind of in the previous TimeSplitters is very sort of, like, Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yes.
Future Perfect is where, like, that is at its, like, most, because fucking JoBeth Cassidy is, like, Brandy from fucking Conker's Bad Fur. Like, the way that she talks and it's very kind of, oh my god, like, it's like,
she's
you know,
a Valley Girl pastiche,
yeah. How do you think about that?
But it's not overly annoying, which is, like, that's the really interesting...
The character I was most annoyed by was in Level 2, Scotland the Brave, 1924, which was Captain Ash, and I mean, I gotta say this as someone who is very annoyed by the English. I'm not a fan of like the posh, like, oh, there, good shot, old bean, and it's like, oh, I want to smack you.
I just love the way Cortez interacts with all these characters.
Yeah,
no, and that's my favorite thing as well.
Cortez sells it, and I love how nonchalant most of them are about like the spaceman.
Yeah.
The only thing that annoys them about Cortez is when he wants to do the catchphrase.
Which is so strange, because like if that was established in 2, but it's so weird that he just says time to split and everyone acts like, yeah, we're all tired of this time to split. It's like, the first time have we ever heard this.
We've never heard it. We have no context. But I do love how Cortez in this game, like, you know, he's a framing device character in the second game. He's just you jump through portals and you become different characters in each level. He's just kind of the action protagonist for the framing device. But in this game, they do something with him, and they turn him into this like, he's a comedy protagonist, but he's not annoying. He's competent, but he is also incompetent.
He's an idiot, but he's very simple-minded, very straightforward. He's not equipped for an actual time travel plot, so he just blunders through it perfectly.
He's basically Johnny Bravo with a gun. Like, that's kind of like especially in regards to, but it's not like in a way that, like, because I was going to say he's sort of Duke Nukem, but he hasn't got like any of that like bravado to him at all. He is like he is for like all intents and purposes a normal guy, but he just has like this slightly quirky streak to him, and like obviously like his design is Richard B. Riddick because of the goggle. Yeah, he is Vin Diesel. And it's kind of like if they did a Vin Diesel film where they wrote some jokes in, but it's not like Vin Diesel would like butcher those jokes because he would try and say it seriously. Like everything, the tone of the game is all rock solid, but like, which is such like an interesting thing to like say about this because, and I really will like I like Charlie, I want you to like say your piece on this like in a minute, but
I'm ready.
It's been really difficult like trying to tie the line of exactly what Snake said, which is this is not a bad game. This game is like excellent.
It's so far from it.
No, but the moment you start to like, especially when I start to compare it to like TimeSplitters 2, it's like, but I like this better, and like
it's such an unfair thing because they're both good in their own little way, but it's like, I mean, it's the difficulty that we played these like exactly back to back, and we're both very weird and particular people about character and framing device, and like but it's basically also the levels in TimeSplitters 2 are very much more like open sandboxy, whereas this game is much more in the 2005 Half-Life 2 early. I don't want to say Call of Duty, but you know, it's much more linear. Let's just say that. It's
that is interesting. That's something because you guys have that context of going into Future Perfect with 2, and I haven't played 2 in probably 10 years.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's. I don't think I'm not going to say, oh, if you play 2, you'll see the light, because that would be really presumptuous.
No, not at all. Like, this is what I mean. I want to hear like, but it's funny that you mention that because I went back and I replayed like a bunch of the older games as well, like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, and 2 already was like a lot more forward, like push forward facing than those games, which were more in the style of like Doom, fumbling around, like going to every single room and trying to figure out the way ahead, which again works in that game because it's more about like inhabiting a space. But once you get to TimeSplitters 2 and like the Siberia level in particular is the nearest like analog to those, but it is very A, B, C, D, E. Like you very rarely have to go off the beaten path. But then you get to TimeSplitters 3 and it is more like that, but it is also a lot more like it is a lot more like, say, Halo or something like that. I want to sidebar that though, because that's like something else. Charlie, simple question with a not very simple answer. What is it about TimeSplitters Future Perfect that, say, even though you haven't played it in about 10 years, that you would think, oh, actually, so just say that. What is it about TimeSplitters Future Perfect that you really gel with?
It weirdly, I mean, well, I have like a big history with this game because this I feel like I am a game developer. I'm a professional game developer, and I work in AAA. I've been working in AAA for 3 years, and I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for TimeSplitters Future Perfect.
Okay,
like,
there is absolutely no severing that love, even if that was the intent.
I know.
Even if that was the intent.
Me and Snake are going to leave the call. We've lost. You've won.
It is a bias that cannot be separated because. But outside of that bias, I genuinely do believe that like, if I hadn't played it in 2005, if I played it right now, and if this was the first time I was playing it, I still think I would gel with it like 100% because it is so. Everything about it is so me. The humor is so me. The irreverence, just the whole tone of the whole thing, but not just that, like, the gameplay, I think is rock solid, the core gameplay is rock solid, just it's simple shooting stuff, but there is so much Can I curse on this podcast?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
absolutely. Fucking go for
It
it.
is so much fucking content. There is so much content in this game. I don't know if I have ever, and of course, not all the content is great. We know this. Not all the content can be great in a game with this much
it's rock
stuff.
solid gameplay fundamentals and all this stuff.
Yes, and like it's the weapons, it's the 150 characters, it's the arcade mode, it's the challenge mode, the cutscene, the story, bam, 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 map maker, online play, offline play, split screen, bots.
I said this last episode and I'll say it again, just for your sake. Playing TimeSplitters 2, and this did it to a not as much an extent just coming off of it, but I was feeling it is like I was playing as like I'm turning into a boomer. This was better. It was. It's like
I need to go back in time because this is when games they came out and they were finished. And
No, exactly.
it's like oh wait, you're beating arcade stages. You're getting goals. You're racking them up, and it's like hey, here's a new mode. Here's a new map. Here's free characters. Bang.
it just pulled it. Like I was doing it just last night. I finished the campaign last night, and then I played like maybe 4 or 5 hours of just like arcade challenge stuff, and it was constantly just pulling me through. You unlocked a new mode, you unlocked the next step in this challenge, you unlocked a new character, you unlocked like oh my god, it's constantly feeding you new things to keep you going.
And it's very compulsive. Like the loading screen tips, they're not boring things like press B to crouch. It's like, have you played such and such yet? Have you tried out this mode?
You don't have any mates? Play with bots.
I wrote that one down. Have no mates. It's like such a mean one, but yeah, it's like, hey, this give you this game. We've given you unlimited things to do if you gel with the core of it.
It is a deluge of content.
And you know what? I will give TimeSplitters Future Perfect this, which was something that I picked up from reading reviews at the time, which, by the way, for people who listen to Bullet Time and go, oh, I thought they only covered bad shooters, like, this game got 9 out of 10s, like, across the board. Like, everyone, 9 and 8 out of 10s across the board. Everyone agrees that, no, TimeSplitters Future Perfect is a really good game. And most of the reviews also said, is better than TimeSplitters 2. Which, okay.
I do think over time, the consensus has flipped back to
changed
2.
back. No, I absolutely agree with you.
There is a newness bias, and it's with anything. Like, I genuinely wonder, if TimeSplitters kept going and kept going to this day, where would we be on, like, would we be in a fucking melee situation?
Yeah, right?
With raw purists like this, was the one.
Or would it be more of a situation where, like, it's like Halo, where you get, like, TimeSplitters 5 and TimeSplitters Infinite, where people go, actually, why did people even like TimeSplitters in the first? No, you're an idiot.
Maybe
No, all of them are good.
It's just on that note, to just kind of put into perspective how old all this is. The last trailer, I believe the last trailer that came out for the unreleased, unmade TimeSplitters 4 was a monkey Master Chief on Zanzibar.
Yeah!
Like, that
Halo
was the timely
3 parody.
It's like, I remember seeing that trailer and being like, yes, give me the game.
Wasn't the logo the monkey's head in a bloody cog, as in the first Gears of War graphic? Like, that's even how old
it's funny to think, because it wasn't really parodying video games. I wonder if that's where we would have been.
That is really interesting to see. What if they did go that way? Because these games are not parodies of video games.
They're film pastiches mostly. And
the genre, like TimeSplitters 1 is just action scenes. TimeSplitters 2 is like full genre pastiches, and to kind of bring it back to the story for a moment, that's kind of what I feel is a bit lost in Future Perfect. Is there's only 5 time zones in the story, and they're all just kind of filtered by whatever Cortez is doing. It's like there is spy fiction in the background of Cortez's time travel plot, and it's like it's not worse. It's like, well, we've already done all these time periods, so sure. The 50s B-movie stuff is kind of gone, but that's fine. It just wouldn't fit in the tone whatsoever.
And the thing which is a bit of a shame as well is that, like, with the time periods, it only ever goes forward. Like, he doesn't go to, apart from right at the end, he only, like, he starts in...
I never actually noticed it only moves forward.
He starts in 1920s, then 1960s, then 2040, then 2400. Yeah, no... Up until right at the end, it only moves forward, which again kind of feels like a bit of a shame in regards to, especially if you're doing that. Like,
did that make you, James? Did that make you feel it was more linear? Because I didn't even.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that also helps across the thing of, because if you're doing a structure like that as well, why not also have it that the weapons get better as you you unlock the first level you only have bolt actions and single shots, but then when you get to the future you have assault rifles, and then you get like laser weapons and stuff like that. But because it's still built on TimeSplitters, essentially all the weapons are kind of the same, except with like sort of different looks.
That's interesting. Because you do go from level to level, and you kind of have the machine gun, you have the pistol, you have the shotgun. Yeah. That's. I mean, and when you go to the map maker, they're all cut into those clean categories
balance kind of thing, unless they were rejiggered for multiplayer thereafter.
No. So only just to quickly wrap up the point that I was going to say about the reviews, which is that the one thing that they were all celebrating was the fact that it was now online, because they thought that the thing that aged TimeSplitters 2 beyond relief was that it was split screen multiplayer, which seems like such a thing now, where it's like people write like entire video essays about, oh, how good was it when everybody sat in a room and like played games together. And you have stuff like Overcooked, which like taps into that as well. But like technology is caught up in such a way that you could play TimeSplitters 2 now over like Parsec, you know?
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's super cool. Yeah, you could totally parse like that.
But it's also funny as well is that the thing that we tapped on, which one of the developers said in like 1 and 2, which to your point where you said there's like so much content in TimeSplitters Future Perfect, and not everything's going to land. But the cool thing is that like there's so much content is that some that might not land for you might really appeal to somebody else. And it's such the Fortnite thing of, well, Fortnite has driving, it had web slinging for a while, it had this, it had that. And there's just so much in that game that it's like you never have to be bored, and there's going to be something that you'll gel with, which will keep you in. And TimeSplitters had that like 17 years ago. It's mental.
There's something about just like the complete like just kitchen sink about the design of the series that I just love, and I've heard a story. I don't remember where I heard this. Please don't take me at my word on this 100%. Sure. But I heard that, you know, during development of these games, this is early 2000s. Game dev is still very kind of early. It's still like a little loose, very loose. And like I heard that the reason monkeys are in TimeSplitters, the whole story behind the monkey is somebody made a monkey. Somebody made a monkey like on their spare time on their computer, and they put it in the game. And suddenly, monkeys are a fucking fixture of all of these games. Yep. like that is the design philosophy, it seems like.
We had a quick chat about this before we start the episode, because I think the most interesting thing... Well, I say the most interesting thing. Like, TimeSplitters Future Perfect is really neat, but one thing that me and Snake were kind of talking about and trying to reckon with before this episode was like, right, this is the one that EA publishes. And
I didn't even realize that until I saw the credits rolling at the end.
And it's because it doesn't feel like an EA game, does it? It feels like a TimeSplitters game.
I like when the EA credits hit, I was like, "Oh my god, I hate these motherfuckers!" Like,
you're about to keep hating them. Don't worry, it's gonna remain that way. It might get worse.
And the funny thing is that the first episode that me and Snake did of the podcast was Black, and that was an example as well of EA being like, "We are hands off on this project. You guys." You know what you're doing. You make whatever you want, and we'll give you the money, the QA, and whatever you need to like polish it up.
Yeah,
and that is like the only time that EA isn't really a villain of the story, because like all the other, because we haven't got to these FPS games yet, but we will eventually. But EA is such like it's the eye of Mordor.
Shadow villain. It's just they're just hiding in the background, waiting to strike.
Which they kind of are. So they sort of are on this, but in a really interesting way. So, like, just to kind of set the scene a little bit. So, the first 2 games are published by Eidos. And the one thing all the way along is that, like, Free Radical hate working for Eidos because Eidos didn't push TimeSplitters enough. Like, TimeSplitters 2 came out. It went to #1 in the charts the week it released. It stayed there for a while. And it sold, like, gangbusters. But they didn't print enough copies of it. And so they're like, why aren't you pushing this hard enough? And it's like, well, you know, it's not Lara Croft. And here's the really funny thing. So we were saying that these games have all this content in it. None of these publishers ever worked out what to do with TimeSplitters, because they're like, well, it's not military. It's not sci-fi. Like, Halo, you hand Halo to somebody and they go, this is a cohesive identity. I know what this is.
You can put it in a box.
Versus...
There's no way to sum up TimeSplitters in a sentence.
TimeSplitters is so out of the box, which is what's so fantastic about it. But you go, how the hell do you sell that? Yeah. Meanwhile, what Fortnite figured out was You sell it by making it free and by being epic and having all the money in the world, and people just, you keep adding stuff to it and people go, oh, that's the new model because this game made billions of dollars, so actually this works. But with IDOS they go, this isn't working out for us anymore, and at this point IDOS is starting to go under, and this is before Square buys them and they become Square, part of Square Enix essentially. So they go to different publishers to see if they'll pick stuff up. Their next game, Second Sight, which we did in the last episode, that goes with Codemasters, and we really liked Second Sight. It's so good.
Second Sight is just brilliant game.
I'm not to interrupt, but I really hope and this is something we can talk about later, but the fact that Free Radical now exists again, like that's a big thing we got to talk about.
That is the potential future perfect. That is the potential. The fact
that I'm living in a world right now where I could potentially see the continued adventures of John Vatic, and
Cortez,
Cortez, but Cortez, to me, honestly, it was like TimeSplitters is gonna come back someday. Like I always knew it. I always knew it was gonna happen, in some form or some way. But Second Sight's the one to me where I'm like, nobody fucking knows this game exists. Please give me another slightly immersive sim stealth action telekinesis game,
or just remaster it with nicer graphics so people just have a new way to play it. That's it.
Yeah, it's this slight brilliant tragedy that because Second Sight is this perfectly told little stealth story, and it's just this proof that you give these guys the money and the time, they will give you gold. It's just no one was willing to wait on that fucking gold.
Yeah.
No publisher knew what to do with them. It was too much talent for fucking publishers to handle.
The creative voice was too unique for video games at the time. Straight up.
It was too. Yeah, they were before their time. Before their time is a pretty fucking apt way of putting them.
And the whole reason that they formed Free Radical in the first place was they felt constricted under Rare. They wanted to do more stuff with, they did GoldenEye and they realized, well, this is a film property, so we're only ever going to go as far as we can with this. So that's why they do Perfect Dark. And they can expand the whole thing out. But then they they talk to the stampers and they go, yeah, but the next project you might be on Banjo, or you might be on Cameo, or you might be on Viva Pinata. And they go, yeah, but we want to do more stuff like this. And they essentially say, well, you got the clout, why don't you go do your own business? Why don't you go start your own company, essentially, which is how that happens.
That's awesome.
What's really funny is that they are these bright sparks and so ahead of the time, but publishers at the time didn't know what to do with it. But they go to EA and they go, well, EA, they, at the time, they published The Sims and all these kind of slightly quirky, they would take a chance on quirkier stuff, but it's because they had FIFA and Madden. They had the money that they could use to put into slightly quirkier stuff, and they went, well, okay, well, these are the guys that we should go with. Here's the really funny thing with EA, which is that, you would think that they would get involved, with the design of the game and say, oh, it needs to be more like it. Because when I started playing it, I went, it has vehicles, that's like Halo. It has the gravity gun, that's like Half-Life 2. It has co-op partners with you all the time, that's like Half-Life 2. And there's so much stuff in it where it goes, oh shit, did they make it more like Half-Life, what was popular? Apparently, EA had no say on that. The only thing that EA told them to do was the intro level where it's where 2 ends and 3 begins immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
And you're just on the planet's surface and it teaches you a little bit about the controls, but it's this little explosive opening. That's all EA told them to add. They said this would be a decent hook for the game. And I was debating whether to mention that until after we explained what the story was, because I thought that now that I've mentioned it now...
jumped around the fucking plot massively.
No, I know, but...
been all over.
I think the intro worked. I like the intro of Future Perfect. I think it works absolutely fine. And so...
There's one thing about the intro I find really amusing, and I jotted it down. It's one line of dialogue, and it's just really funny in a very specific context, which is... You're running down these canyons on this desert planet and you're gunning down these kind of weird cult members and there's TimeSplitters coming in. And someone says, where's Corporal Hart? And the other guy says, who's Corporal Hart? And it's like, she died 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was playing through. I'm finishing the campaign last night. I started TimeSplitters like probably a month ago, and then kind of finished it up recently. So the beginning's a little blurry right now. But I you as Cortez loops back around at the end of the game, at the beginning of the game, I did hear that line again, and it was like, where's Corporal Hart? Who is that? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like,
it's like she was just on the most important mission in history and just died. Like,
but then I also went into the challenge modes last night, and I thought it was super cool because one of the challenge modes is Corporal Hart's story. Like, they're like straight up. The description of it is Corporal Hart is here to make a reasonable showing, even though she died in the last game. Like,
I didn't play.
And it's a 3-level mini campaign about Corporal Hart. It's like, what the fuck? That's so cool.
God. So, but here's the really funny thing with EA, which is that they said we're not going to get involved, we're not going to fiddle around too much, we're just going to help out. But they thought the TimeSplitters Future Perfect was such an obvious thing that they went, we don't really need to, we can save the advertising budget on this. TimeSplitters 2 was this enormous cult hit. People will buy it. Like, they'll know TimeSplitters is out, and they used the money that they were going to use to advertise it to prop up another FPS game that was coming out at the same time, GoldenEye Rogue Agent.
What?
A game that only exists because the developers that made TimeSplitters Future Perfect made the original fucking GoldenEye.
I've been excited for that drop because that's just the most disgusting irony in this whole adventure, that the roaming spirit of GoldenEye coming back to bite them.
I think I have a copy of Rogue Agent like on my shelf.
I was going to say,
I'm literally going to go and smash it. Like,
I was going to say, have you played Rogue Agent?
I have. I played Rogue Agent a long time ago. The only two things I distinctly remember is the fact that you can hold two random ass guns. And
wielding, yep.
Akimbo anythings, and the fact that James Bond just fucking dies in the first 5 minutes. Does he get sucked out of a plane or some shit?
No, he falls through the roof, and then a helicopter falls and crushes him.
That sounds like a sketch, like a comedy sketch.
Yeah, like when it falls on him, it should be like a splat sound effect or something, or like boink. Yeah.
I've got bad news, Q. James Bond died farting.
Well, that's the thing.
So
not to spoil GoldenEye Rogue Agent for anybody. So it turns out that was a simulation, that first level, and then fucking Judy, because they get everyone from the films back, and because it's like this historical, it's set between a bunch of different Bond films, they get back all the fucking these old ass actors who are in all the 60s and 70s films. So fucking Christopher Lee, Saruman is in it playing Scaramancer, and it sounds like old Christopher Lee. But Judi Dench is in the game as M, and she fucking rinses you out because she was like, "You let 007 die. You're not a good agent. Go out. You're a bad agent. Get out of here."
Getting talking to by fucking Dame Judi Dench. That's great.
She does. She fucking whips your ass because one, you are akimboing weapons, which isn't. That's not what the 00 agents should do. You let a helicopter fall on Bond.
I have never seen James Bond dual wielding 12-gauge shotguns.
I feel like at that point you should just start yelling at Judi Dench he's 007. If he was good, he would have dodged it.
Yeah, exactly. He's not right. I mean, he can't be that good, is he?
He's been trained for this. He should have been trained to dodge a helicopter at this point. He's been in the field for 90 years.
He's had so many adventures.
But the fact, and they called the fucking game GoldenEye, and it's literally just because the guy has a cybernetic golden eye that lets him see through walls, which is something stolen from other games. It lets him have a shield again, like Halo. It's that is a game which feels because when I played Future Perfect when I was a kid, and you have dual wielding, I thought, oh, it's Halo 2, not realizing, oh no, they're the guys who fucking invented that in GoldenEye, and all the TimeSplitters games have dual wielding. So it's okay, no, never mind. This is paying homage to all of the old ones. But GoldenEye Rogue Agent feels like what is popular. Let's make it like that. And so the funny thing was, in trying to read interviews and stuff, the fact that the game has vehicles and it has like all this stuff, it's exactly what you said. They had already figured out most of this stuff in TimeSplitters too, so it's like, well, what else can we do? And in trying to make a game that could just appeal to everyone, like, not everything has been put into this game, they just added, like, all this stuff that, like, well, hey, Valve could do this with Half-Life. They had, like, a gravity gun. We can do that. We can do vehicles. We can do all of this stuff. And it's like... So in that kind of light, it's like, oh, no, actually, like, Future Perfect is, like, it's way more ambitious than 2, but I just think that 2 is just tighter as a package. And maybe that's sort of...
I honestly think, for me, 2 feels a bit more imaginative and a little bit crazier. I think 3 for me is like, it feels a lot. I'd actually say 3 feels like the tighter game, and I mean that both in like it's very mechanically polished, it's more, but it's also kind of more limited in scope. Like there's less time periods. There's one thing, and this is I wouldn't say this is an annoyance. It's not. It's like so particular, but I think it kind of, to me, feels like a little bit of a thing you can see. So, game begins, and you bring the time crystals to a base, and like, we have found a way to track energy residue from when these crystals have been used. We want you to go back in time, and by the way, it's all a lot funnier than I'm describing it. It's a lot more.
So
telling it very straight, but yeah. Basically, Cortez is sent back in time to find the origin of when the crystals were used, and basically stop any of this from ever happening to begin with. Very like, and obviously being a comedy, they obviously don't want to deal with the ramifications of like.
No, it's Austin Powers and the Spy Who Shagged Me in it, where he goes cross-eyed and he goes, "Don't try and think about it too much. That goes for you at home."
Yeah, pretty much. It's like it's just very funny, like very light-hearted. And you go to Scotland the Brave, and because it's like time cultists, you don't really get World War II weapons. You get a kind of, sort of period-appropriate weapon, but with...
It looks like it might belong there.
Yeah, you have revolvers as your pistol-alikes, which I guess makes
sense. You have kind of a Lee Enfield-y kind of sniper rifle. It's 1924, so I shouldn't say World War II-ish. It's a bit before that, but you also get an assault rifle that looks like a Sturmgewehr 44, but
it looks like it's made out of like submarine parts. I don't know what the hell that machine gun is.
Because it's been made by like the bad guys, I think. And
so here's the really funny thing, and I debated mentioning this now or wait until you get to the part of the story, which is you do the first level and it's a castle base full of Russians, and it's like, the fucking Rare guys, they can't go making a game without having Russian enemies in it. They just, even when it makes no sense, they have Russian enemies in it. And then the game has an inbuilt, but we'll get to that. The game has inbuilt reasons for all. The story is airtight in a weird way.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's wonderfully airtight. I do have another thing I want to say about level 2, Scotland the Brave.
Yes.
The composer, Graham Norgate?
Yes.
He said of Scotland the Brave, the music to it, that it is the best piece he's ever done. It's his favourite.
I agree with that. The music to Scotland the Brave is like the best.
It's this beautifully haunting theme. It like goes between like this triumphant, like wartimey Band of Brothers, and then like this very melancholy, and there's like little hints of like, not bagpipes, it's some other kind.
No, it is a singular bagpipe, which is like for that bit of that lead. Yeah, that little bit of lead that you mentioned, which is just kind of like over. Yeah, that sort of like choral section, and it is like the rest of like the percussion kind of pulls back a little bit to let that do much of the top. Yeah, it is. That
like,
is
it's
really
his favorite
good
piece of music, and I was like. And I didn't think much of it, and I was like, and I was reading, and it's like, he said, this is my favorite piece of music. I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit and listen to this. And I started listening to it, and just really like on by itself, and I was like, no, this is fucking beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And I started thinking, you're there with a 1920s British explorer doing cornball jokes, and you've got this beautiful war piece, and it's like
sweeping.
Yeah, sweeping is exactly what. It's like, this feels. I don't want to say above because that's very pretentious, but it's like. This would suit like an actual like big war
that's
push
what
scene,
like,
and you're raiding an island.
I mean, considering all the other FPS games that we have played for like the pod and like even games of the side, because otherwise it'd be like somebody like Chris Tilton who did the soundtrack to Black, and like what you kind of pointed out, like the soundtrack to Black not only doesn't fit the game, but it is very kind of cheesy Hollywood, like, you know, lone violin, which in fairness I fucking love because it is such like
you were big on like, you thought like sweeping Spider-Man 2-y music. I was like, I'm blowing away people and I'm like this horrible dumbass agent. This is
completely inappropriate music.
I was gonna say, Charlie, have you played Black?
I did play Black a long time ago. Yes,
do you agree that Black should have blasting heavy metal music and not a sweeping orchestral?
It should have the Doom soundtrack.
It should have the Doom soundtrack. It should. The guy who does the voice for the Darkness should have like created the music. Like for sure.
We got to do the Darkness at some point, but
I'm playing through all those right now.
So nice. As Snake pointed out, though, I just love the juxtaposition between being the world's shittiest mercenary blowing apart guys with denim jeans on, and the music sounds like Uncle Ben has died and Peter's decided I'm going to help the people of New York City. But yeah, it's funny, we don't really talk about the music much in the TimeSplitters, and the music in TimeSplitters is really good. I mean, we mentioned in TimeSplitters 1 that they're like the whole reason they spun off and did their own company, and like all of the developers kind of had like they all sort of like the same like artistic stuff and like same composers and whatever. And for Perfect Dark, they all really like Luc Besson, which is why she's like Femme Nikita, and like all the sci-fi stuff looks like Fifth Element. And then you have the track in the last level of TimeSplitters 1, which is like a direct style parody of the opera scene from Fifth Element.
Really? Wow.
In the level where you're a robot and you're stealing duty free before you get on the spaceship to escape the planet.
It's the most British fucking joke you could end a shooter on, is just going and getting your duty free and fucking
yeah.
Excellent.
But yeah, just Norgate as a composer is really underrated. And I think this game...
very varied. He's like... He just can do all these different styles, which obviously series demands that he can, but he's like the perfect man for the job.
And he's what? He started in Rare as well. And he's the Rare composer. He's not fucking... He's not...
What's the Donkey Kong guy?
He's not the Donkey Kong guy. He's not David Wise. He's not Robin Beanland. He's great. He's the guy who did all the... most of the other tracks in GoldenEye, which most people say that like Kirkhope did all of them. Now, Norgate did most of them, and Norgate did all the music in Perfect Dark. And we will get to it, but the credits of this game does Graham Norgate dirty, in my opinion.
It's for TimeSplitters 2, all I could say is I had to listen to Return to Planet X over and over again because I made custom levels for all my mates. And I had one friend who would tell me, no, it's got to be Return to Planet, because that's the only song he would listen to in that game.
And it's like a Chemical Brothers track, which, again, just shows his range of, like, quality. But yeah, Scotland the Brave's a cool level. And again, I like the fact that it's already starting to do the anarchistic stuff of, it has security cameras, because of course it does. It's a rare FPS game like GoldenEye. But the security cameras are like submarine style.
You got a bunch of bolts on them and like make them look as 1920s as you possibly can.
Really piece it. Yeah, it's all periscopes.
Yeah, it's a really cute touch. You save Captain Ash's girlfriend, which again, you said this is the game from 2005, and yeah, she is like a fucking...
She's like an African tribal princess. There's one line that really caught me off guard, and I can't remember the specifics of it. It was when I was like gunning down the Russian. It's like, it reminds me of being in Africa, and I was like,
oh yeah,
yeah,
it is fucking cringe.
It's like Jesus, man. It's like a Darkest Africa joke, and it's like, yeah, you can't do that nowadays.
And then the level ends with a boss fight. Now, Charlie, I am going to warp my opinion to this game.
I'm not going to warp it. These boss fights are fucking garbage.
All the boss fights in Future Perfect are bad.
They're fucking terrible. Yeah, they're terrible.
Point. It's like, and it's one per level. There's like one boss fight in TimeSplitters 2, and it's the worst it's one of the it's so easy that you just kind of go. But this one, it's like every boss just had me in the thing of there's no strategy, just kill it faster than it kills you.
Yeah.
Aside from the Deer Haunter and the final boss, kind of.
I think exactly. I think there are a couple instances in there where it kind of works, but the game is just not suited for the type of encounters they put together. Like the monster that comes out of the well in
the Deer Haunter.
How the fuck are you supposed to? Well, not even the Deer Hunter itself, because the Deer Hunter is that. By the way, I do have a question to ask you at some point, but it is what are your 3 favorite multiplayer characters? But we'll save that for later.
Okay.
Sure. but like the Deer Hunter fight is really cool because it's an enemy that's like 8 feet tall. It's in that one room. It's pretty condensed. It's really short. It's simple. It's just a stronger enemy. But then there's the monster that comes out of the well that's 100 feet tall.
Yeah.
And the movement mechanics of the game do not support fighting that thing. There is no way to dodge it.
No, it's funny. They feel like Banjo-Tooie bosses, which again, they're all ex-Rare guys, so maybe it's just like they all sat on the same meetings where they all learned boss design at the same time, because like fighting the tank feels like fighting the tank at the end of Banjo-Tooie, where it is also feels really anticlimactic because it doesn't use any like quick. All right. We're probably going to have to rack our brains on this, but is there an FPS game that has a good boss fight in it?
Definitely.
Okay,
Definitely, I've been thrown into
let's hear it. All right, here we go. Let's think.
I don't mind the boss fights in Doom 2016. I know that's very contentious. A lot of people like them. I don't mind.
What was that?
Doom 2016.
The boss fights in Doom 2016.
I like them. I do like them.
You could be very movement heavy. I think they fare better in more platformy based ones where you've actually got motion to work with.
Yes, I recently made a list of my top 20 FPS games ever. I'm just going to consult this and see if there's any one of them that has a good boss fight.
Doom 2016, I think, makes the most sense because they feel so much like the bosses from Doom 93, where it just teaches. It's basically your test of did you learn circle strafing? Okay, here's your test. There we go.
Yeah. And I like how the final spider boss fight. There's a little bit of platforming involved. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, here's a lazy answer for this very reason. It's not something that will appear on the pod. It's Ultra Kill.
Okay.
And you know what?
Took a little while, but they cracked the first person boss fight code.
Yeah, and the trick is make him a bit like a Devil May Cry boss, because that's a game that's all about like stylish combat anyways. So
yeah, for sure. I gotta get deeper into Ultra Kill.
I've got to as well.
The big deer boss in the Haunted House level did make me think that was like from a New Blood game. Like if that was lower poly and had worse textures, that would be in like Dusk or something.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah.
Let's move on to the other level. So like you finished Scotland the Brave, and again this game is full of like weird jokes because it's sort of Cortez, he escaped. Where do we go? Why do we go to the 1960s? And it's like, how did you know that? It's on the back of this
she goes on this big joke about like triangulating based on a picture, like, if I look at a topographical map and consult the height of the buildings, we can track down. And Cortez like, it's September 1969. Why? And it just cuts to him holding the picture, and it's like written on the back exactly where and when the meeting was.
And I just love, I fucking love the comedy of this game. Like it's so. Okay, I'm American, so I don't really understand.
No. Comedy's subjective is fine. There's no right or wrong answers.
I mean, actually, I think it's fair he says that. It feels less British comedy, more kind of American. It's very Austin Powers.
To me, as an American, them being a British studio, it feels like British comedy to me. It feels subtle and like dry. Not subtle, but dry.
This will be completely lost on you,
I guess,
Snake.
the point is very subjective. Okay.
No, but I'm going to say this as well. Having played so many Rareware games as a child, this is where, like, the Donkey Kong Country Banjo-Kazooie comedy feels like it's at its strongest, because it is so much... And again, like, the thing that I liked about TimeSplitters 2 was that there wasn't any written jokes. It was mostly slapstick stuff, which I think kind of ages... Well, it doesn't age better, but it's like, that's a bit more universal than, say, here, where a lot of the jokes are kind of like, they're more based on the written word. But again, to go back to the thing that we keep saying, the comedy isn't bad in this game. It's just I preferred what they did in TimeSplitters 2.
But is there any comedy moment that is even close to the moment when old Crow appears in front of younger Crow and he goes, "Grandpa? No, it's me, Grandpa."
Yeah.
Like, that shit is so funny. That shit gets me every fucking time.
It's pretty
The
good.
one that I really love, the one that gets me, and I'm gonna amend an earlier statement about British American comedy. But the moment that really gets me is when Cortez is like, "Well, I know your plan." He's just standing there dumbfounded, and Cortez explains exactly what the plot is, and then he says, "Oh, that's pretty clever," and he just goes, and Cortez, it dawns on him, he just kicked off the entire conflict. And he screams so loudly that Harry Tipper in a different time period.
Yeah, he
hears
says
him.
"dang it" so loudly
Yeah.
that a guy from 30 years ago hears him while having sex.
Spaceman.
And it's but I will say, actually, it does feel a very British joke, is the amount of the lack of respect Cortez gets from everyone else. Is a
Yeah.
That is a very British gag where he's very bombastic. He's very much like, "Time to split," and he's like going for it, and no one gives him any, like, no one lets that line play, and they just, like, the moment he says it, everyone's like, ugh.
And the scene, the elevator scene.
Yeah.
When they're just standing next to each other for like 10 seconds in silence.
How's the job?
Been at the agency long.
You get dental? Yes. Yeah.
And to bring it back to the time
It's
split
so
thing, the next time they're doing like an elevator period, it says time split, and she's like, "Oh, I'll get the next one," and it just goes down as he just holds the pose, but his face like sinks.
That's what, like, yeah, man. It's Cortez could so easily just have been kind of a Duke Nukem, but they give him this quirky streak that I feel like just like makes him almost this just timeless character, and it's not overplayed. It's not
and he's very likable in a way that a lot of FPS heroes aren't. Like, you either have a Master Chief who is nothing, or you have a Duke Nukem who's like, I've got the biggest cock in the room, everyone else sucks apart from me. And there's no, like, just a guy who's nice, who kind of is what Cortez is. He's just a guy who's nice.
Yeah, and he's trying to do the job, and he gets the job done in the end. He always gets the job done, but he also will occasionally reveal the entire plan to the villain and cause time to, like...
When it happens, you think, yeah, he's exactly stupid enough to do that. He's not annoyingly stupid. He's fun.
I think that's the joke that I like the most as well, is that the one that sticks in my head, and I don't think for a good reason, is just, it goes a little bit further into the game, but it's when they start to loop the plot and you start to go back to previous levels and stuff, but it's where you walk in on the Russian enemies who are talking about, to stop this, we need to stop Cortez. But the only picture that they have of Cortez is him having won Mr. Universe with wearing nothing but a cheetah speedo, a thing over his chest, like he's Baby New Year, and a crown.
He's got a big a sash that says Mr. Space.
That's it, Mr. Space.
That's the one joke about him that, like, I don't know, it didn't really land because, like, Cortez, that feels like a Duke Nukem joke, not a Cortez joke.
It does. I feel like it links just enough to his confidence and his constant urge to say his cool action line. Like, I could see him in the future winning a Mr. Space competition. Taken.
And I think getting back to what you said earlier about the fact that this game does so many different things, like the comedy's very all over the place as well, but I think it is just the fact of, well, if you didn't like this joke, maybe you'll like this one. Or, like, we're going to try... We just want to try everything and see, like, what works. Because, like, the robot character, I didn't... Like, when he gets infected with a virus...
I dug the robot.
No, that's what I mean. So, like, the jokes... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You're stuck between us two on this one. It's... I don't know. I don't want to be topical about it, and it's, like, such a low blow, but I think what the comedy is very confident. It doesn't linger. It makes the joke and it goes. And having just, been writing a video about the new Saints Row game for several years. God, it feels that way. But
it feels like several years at this point.
It's like the comedy in that game is very... unconfident is the best word for it. Like, jokes linger. There's big pauses like, did you get the joke? And then they'll make several more along the same lines. This game is like, the cutscenes are very direct. Like, they make the joke and they go, and it's like, even if you don't particularly find it funny, you can't be annoyed because it's just bang and you go.
Well, plus it also feels a bit like Saints Row really has like 3 jokes, but it just keeps banging, like it just keeps saying the same joke in different.
It keeps wanting them to work.
Versus, like, again, this is very Zucker Brothers in regards to a joke happens and then you move on and then something else happens. And again, like, there's no like jokes during the game. Well, I guess you do find you can find a drunk person in every level, that's part of gameplay. But
see, the drunk guards are a wonderful recurring gag.
Yeah. God, what did we even get to in the plot? So then you do the sci-fi
we were
stuff.
only on level 3, I believe.
Yeah, you meet Harry Tipper, and Harry Tipper again. This was the first game I played of the series.
Played by
so
Doug Cockle. I can't remember.
Yes, what was his? Isn't he also the voice of Cortez?
No. I can't remember the voice of Cortez off the top of my head, which is a shame because it's a very distinctive voice, and he played the sergeant in Second Sight.
Yes.
But no, I can't remember who played Harry Tipper in this one. Just that in 2, Harry Tipper was played by Doug Cockle, who went on to play Geralt of Rivia, which is always a fun fact for me.
Oh, by the way, Cortez voice actor Tom Clark Hill.
Yeah, there we go. I just looked it up. Tom Clark Hill, voice of lots of things.
He's the main guy in the Sniper Elite series.
Yep,
I did not know that.
Yeah, you can if you play Sniper Elite with that in mind, immediately it's like, oh fuck, it's Cortez.
Oh, that clicks.
Yeah.
It's
a really good voice.
Bombastic.
Oh yeah.
The level's okay. It's just it kind of feels like it riffs on like Atom Smasher and like the Siberia level and stuff. It's just like a lot of neat spy set pieces. This is kind of where it feels a bit more like EA getting me in regards to, okay, here's a sniper section. Okay, here's a sneaking section. Here's which it's okay. Like it's like all of them land really solidly, but it's just,
Yeah, that's the thing about that I noticed when playing it through again, is that they will divide their levels into very specific chunks, very specific gameplay chunks.
So, interesting story about that then that I got from the development, which is that is how Free Radical apparently designed their FPS games in regards to how they did TimeSplitters 1 and 2. A artist and a programmer would be responsible for a single level or a number of single levels, and they would just nurse those like in silo, essentially, until they had something. When they designed 3, they knew that they were going to do more of a story-based approach, but they still had that siloed approach in regards to one person's going to nurse this thing, one person's going to nurse this thing. And the thing that you mentioned earlier with the fact that the reason that monkeys are in the game is because somebody made a monkey model, and like that's what happened with that. Funnily enough, that's why the time splitters are the enemies of time splitters. In the first one, somebody had made a zombie enemy type that they call Splitter. They didn't know what it was for, but they said, this is a cool enemy, let's put it in the game. And they were able to use that to, right at the end of development, put a plot in TimeSplitters 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
And TimeSplitters 3 feels like that in regards to, so like somebody might have worked on the sniping section or whatever, but then they had the 2 lead like devs on the game had to come in post and be like, how does Cortez get from this to this to this? Which is sort of how they do the, apparently that's how like Naughty Dog do the Uncharted games, is that they come up with the set pieces first and then figure out the plot of how does Nathan get from A to B to C.
Interesting.
And I don't know, it's weird. Like, I don't want to say that, that's why TimeSplitters 2 works a little bit better because like a developer
because
worked
it's framing device based instead of linearly story based.
But I think it's just that they're going for two different things, and I guess because TimeSplitters 3 is trying to be like, we want to show that we can do a campaign style game as well as like Bungie or Valve can do. These are games that I've played. Like, I know what those games are like, but I had never played anything like TimeSplitters 2, which is essentially Crash Bandicoot 2 with guns. Like, every level is its own separated thing,
Mm-hmm.
But the Harry Tipper level's okay, and then you do a train level, which everybody loves a train. Everybody loves a train in FPS.
It's kind of crazy to me that, like, oh my god, I go back 17 years and, like, video games are still doing train levels. Like, holy shit, okay. We've been doing this for a while.
Uncharted 2 popped off because people were like, oh god, this train. And then Yeah, TimeSplitters Future Perfect hit it a couple, 3 years earlier, 2 years earlier. Yeah, and it's a good level. It's a lot of fun. I like the carriage to carriage, tight quarters.
Yep.
Right. It's slightly different. The helicopters around you. It's like it varies things up a little bit. I feel like it's when the game kind of starts like those first 3 levels. I feel like are just sort of like really easing you into things, and then the rest is kind of like when the game starts pushing you forward. Really.
The train is obviously where they introduce the beloved mechanic of what if we had 2 Cortezes in a level and you did stuff twice, which sometimes works really well. Like ghost gargles, ghost gun.
Oh, yeah. I did not like that section. I just kept getting jumped by ghosts.
It's so interesting because we would all like varying sections.
That's what I mean. That's the thing.
I just, having finished the game last night, I played through the admittedly just terrible tank sequence.
God!
In the robot level, like God, they were really trying to do that Halo tank, and they just could not do it.
And I think that's also where you can feel like a little bit of strain, because they play that cutscene in full twice. With, It's the same angle.
So nice you had to see it twice, yeah.
And I like the joke of it. I like Cortez going, "I'd stop for you. I already did." And he just kind of like looks off to the side and goes, "Huh, yeah." And it's just like...
And also, hey, where am I meant to go next? You got to get one of these. And it's like, okay, cool. Thanks, plot. This is nice and tight. There we go.
It is very nice and tight, and like Cortez is such a joy of a character that seeing Cortez interact with Cortez is like, fuck yeah, like
exactly.
It's double the fun. I think
the only one where I'm not a massive fan of it is when they have 4 Cortezes and you're just in a room with no cover and you're either shooting tiny droids or you're doing a hacking mini game, and it's like this. Would you believe, Charlie, if I told you that the time traveling Cortez sections, they were added really late in the game?
Really?
As not a means so much to bulk it out, but again, going back to the thing of like every developer had their own little idea and then wanted to add it in. Because of the nature of the game is that some people came up with ideas that required them like completely reworking the game. But David Doak, who is like one of the studio heads and like an old Rareware guy, he says, "Oh, wouldn't it be good if Cortez could interact with himself? Put that in the game." And they did it once, and then he said, "This works so well, put it in multiple parts of the game."
God damn! Wow, I can just imagine being the person who receives that information. Okay, yeah, sure. I'll go do that.
I mean, with the siloed approach, you give like 6 people heart attacks at once.
Yep.
Yeah. I have to completely rebuild my level. What the fuck?
I have the most particular nitpick, and it's not even a problem with the game. It's just something that it doesn't even bother me. I just want to say it because I noticed it. In the 1960s levels, the Soviet rifle. I've started talking and I feel like a prick because this is so
No, you have to continue on.
You already committed.
Yeah, I'm committed.
There'll be somebody listening to the podcast who will agree with you. We talked about the guns in Black. We talked about the guns more in Black offline. But oh no, it wasn't Black, it was something else. And I was like, yeah, well, the MP4 and the MP5, they're the same gun. It's just a different number. And you were like, no, you're a fucking idiot. They're the 2 very different guns.
Well, okay, my point is it looks more like an FN FAL than any sort of Soviet-era gun. It's
right.
You look at it and it's like... FN FAL. It looks like... which is a gun from Belgium, and was a... And I kind of thought maybe they went with this model because... And I don't think this quite lines up, because the FN FAL, the British Army, for around that time period, used the L1A1, which was modelled after the FAL. And it's like...
Okay.
Yeah, but we're talking about the 1970s. This game came out in 2005. Why would anyone care that much to get it... I don't want to say get it wrong in such a particular way. It's just, I don't know.
I think that probably just comes from... Make a gun. Okay,
Yeah.
I made a gun.
Soviet rifle.
And I think it's a cool touch as well is that you notice that despite the fact that this game has a very obvious toonier art style, but they still love gun models enough that they will go to the effort of making it look like a specific gun. I would say, just as a quick sidebar, this is like the nicest that like the TimeSplitters art style gets, in my opinion. I like it a lot in 2, and there's certain things that 2 does with its art style which is better. I like the designs of the TimeSplitters in 2 versus the designs of the TimeSplitters in this one, but I understand why they made the change in some elements, but like the kind of the beastlier like time splitters design in this, where they look like the Pinky Demon from Doom 3.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
I actually do like the chunkier, the Future Perfect design, just because they seem scarier and more menacing to me.
Okay,
they seem like
yeah,
they seem like they do more harm. And then the way they move, just like running at you fast, hunched over, like it feels more like a race that is going to annihilate humanity to me. And the fucking great opening shot in the first mission where you just from the ground you see one of them just like ripping somebody's head off as Cortez like flies by. It's just like it's a perfect setup for just how visceral and fucked up these creatures are.
Versus in 2, where they're these goofy aliens with like elephant trunks sticking out of their mouths, and they're like looking,
like, run around and grab crystals, like skitter through.
Exactly.
And they're very comedic off the bat because they're like doing a little comedy routine where they throw the crystals to each other and then jump in the thing, and it's very, like, it's also funny that the time splitters themselves are very de-emphasized, and it's this weird little bit of respect to canon, which I don't think the series had to. It did, and it's cool that it did, but it also didn't need to bother with, which is, you don't actually face time splitters in anything but these couple of stages. Because you nick the crystals, they're no longer traveling through time.
Yeah! So that's crazy, I didn't even think about that!
Yeah, so you'd only see the time splitters in, like, the beginning and the end. And the rest is just cultist enemies, and like, okay, we've cut the time splitters off from traveling through time. Now let's just deal with the root problem.
And there are time splitters in the game, funnily. There's maybe the most time splitters in this game, like, to fight against is... Is there anything more we want to say about the Harry Sipper level, other than just, hey, spaceman?
It's good and it's cute, and I like Harry Tipper.
I like Harry Tipper as a character as well. If anything, they should make more Time Splitters games because I would like to see more Harry Tipper. Captain Ash, I wouldn't mind. They'd have to change his character a bit. Again, much like Snake, I don't like, oh, I'll be home, time for tea. Like, again, that's fucking rare. I mean, the final boss of Grab by the Ghoulies is fucking Captain Ash from this game. So, there we go. But I like Harry Tipper. I'd like to see more games with him. That'd be deep.
Yeah, they've got a cast of characters where you feel like any one of these guys, a lot of them could carry a game. Like you could have, you could have like fucking DLC, the Harry Tipper Chronicles, and it's 3 fucking missions in the '60s of him fighting Kalos.
Yeah.
If the game was made today.
You do like it. I mean, that was the thing we kept saying about TS2 and TS1, which is just the fact that they could be, they're like a vertical slice. They're like the best level from another game. But they all just happen to be built on the Time Splitters 2 engine with the same similar weapon set, But
yeah.
Cool. It's
well,
cool.
I do want to comment on something you said a little bit ago about the art style.
Yes,
because I feel like this game is so fucking gorgeous, man. Just like, the character animation. Oh my god! I saw a post on Twitter a couple months ago about one of the original artists was just talking about the animation of Time Splitters, and he particularly said he mentioned it before motion capture, and I know people were doing motion capture at this time in various look at Path of Neo and half of the same year, all of his moves are totally motion captured, but like the hand cartoon, the way characters I was watching a shot last night, and when you defeat Crow, the second to last time in the robot level. And there's just a shot. It's just maybe a 5-6 second shot of him saying a sentence. But there's so much movement. And whoa, whoa, bah, bah. His head is moving up and down. His mouth and eyes are expanded. It's such. I just love the character and bounciness and rubberiness.
If anything, this feels like something that's lost in the fact that even stuff like Fortnite now is mostly mocap driven.
Yes.
This has got really good keyframed animation, and you need it in regards to. The character designs are stylized anyways. Having those very kind of
It's something that makes the comedy really work because the expressions and the motions really sell it. Like I mentioned it whenever Cortez's time to split line fails, his face drops, and he keeps the same confident pose, but it's funny as well because he doesn't have eyes. Like his eyes are goggles, so it's just with the mouth and the general face shape. The joke is sold in he becomes very I don't know what's the puppy
he's despondent. He's sad.
Yeah, despondent. It's Cortez, you card.
It is funny just being it is a character with no eyes, but he is like still really expressive.
He's super expressive.
Oh, and it's like it's the Deadpool effect. You have the eyebrows, you have the eye shape.
Oh yeah, it's Spider-Man, whereas like his eyes get like smaller and larger, but it works.
And on the art style front, because we talked about it a bit in the Second Sight thing, where it's like this much more dramatic, much more serious story, and you've still got these rubbery characters.
Yeah.
But they are so wonderfully expressive that they actually kind of sell the downbeat atmosphere, and it's like, it's such a good art style because it can do both. It's like the cartooniness is like, it doesn't downplay the elements. You make the color scheme a bit more muted, and it's like, this still works. It's still very expressive.
No, like, Second Sight definitely makes me think of, like, because again, they like Luc Besson and they like Mobius. Again, it's like a French comic book where it's, it's this serious story, but, like, the proportions they're designed as they are because, they really want to, everyone has big eyes because, like, that's the most expressive part of the body, So, like, why not? It works. Except, it does make, everyone in this game is that every bloke looks like he's morph, like he's just like the chunk, like just big square shapes, and every woman is like an
hourglass
F-cup curvy lady,
woman you have
leads us
seen
nicely into level 3.
Oh boy, the Haunted Mansion, 1994.
Now, do you think that the people at Free Radical are a fan of the Resident Evil games? Considering you start in a haunted mansion that then turns out to be on top of a laboratory.
Okay, actually, all right.
But that's a reference too.
I forgot. This is a game of... I said this to you, and I was so happy with it, and I just remembered. This is a game of basements.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is a funny... Yeah, Snake managed... Yeah, you say the piece, because you...
Yeah, it was just like... Every level is like you arrive at a place, you kind of navigate, and then someone says, actually, there's evil below, and you go downstairs, and it's even more evil. It's not just this level. Changes. This level is the most... this is my one thing, but in the Harry Tipper level, even the first level, the time machine, you fucking descend into it. Second level, when you're in the thing, well, that's a spoiler, but you go to a fucking island and like, oh yeah, you deal with the island. This level, Haunted Mansion, you go down. The level before, God, I'm out. God, this is a time travel plot. I'm sorry.
the eugenics level, which is like immediately afterwards. Yeah, that's where all the evil experiments are happening.
Harry Tipper, you kind of go into a base, then you go down, then you get on a train. Fuck off.
I didn't even... What the fuck?
Yeah. It's like,
what is this weird obsession with the descent into the basement?
I'm just going to spoil it. At the end, you loop back around to the island that's getting blown up, and you realize the evil is below the island.
You need to go actually deeper to the island that you already went to the basement of. The basement has a basement.
We're going to need, like...
That's the thing. I feel like if I was ever able to get an interview with, like, the staff at the time, I would just ruin it by instantly asking... Why does every level have you going to a basement?
And why does the basement change the plot? Why is it a big why do you have big revelatory basements?
Yeah, it's like the big twist of the game is holy shit, there's an even bigger basement.
It literally is.
I do. We're gonna need like 10 hours for this podcast. Whatever time we have left, I do want to like dip on that final level of the game because I do think it's really neat and sort of maybe an interesting in regards to whatever TimeSplitters 4 could be. Haunted Mansion level... So quick question, because I think this is my favourite level of the game. What's everybody else's? Oh, okay, you love the Haunted Mansion as well. Snake, what about you?
I'm pretty big on Haunted Mansion. I think Haunted Mansion I think we're all in there on that.
And do you know what? It feels...
Both parts of it are just stellar. Like, both.
And do you know, most parts... And as well, the thing that we found out about TimeSplitters 1 and a little bit of 2 was that the original design of TimeSplitters 1 was right. We did... Spies with GoldenEye, we did Spy-Fi with Perfect Dark. We want to do film pastiches. Every triplet of levels is going to be either horror, crime, sci-fi. And so that's why you have like an ancient Egypt mummy level, like a creepy like village, well, there's a zombie level in the first game. This level is much better than the zombie level in the first game, I'll give it that much.
It does feel like they decided with doing like so TimeSplitters 1 has the Haunted Mansion level. This feels like, hey, let's do that again but not make it terrible. You've never played 1. Let me tell you something about TimeSplitters 1. The zombies are absolutely invincible unless you headshot them.
You have to headshot.
And the aiming is like horrible in that game.
Yeah.
So I was trying to I still haven't. I was trying to like beat every stage of the first game on hard. Could not for the life of me.
Did we talk? I feel like did we talk about the controls in TimeSplitters 1? Because I feel like that's what I'm just going to say. Just for people at home who have never played this game, the controls in TimeSplitters 3, fine. That's it. That's all I can. The controls are they're not what every game should have, but they work.
I will say
game.
this: we're very late into the podcast. Let me do the basic control rundown I like to do. So, TimeSplitters 1 and 2, they control like GoldenEye, but very tightened up. This
and
game,
with an extra stick.
Yeah. This game removes the kind of soft aim function which those two had. Like now, your gun is locked to center screen. You have a crosshair at all times, and if you press L, you don't ADS. What would be the time you just zoom in a bit, and you have this very weird screen effect where like 2 bits just fly around your crosshair. It feels a little over. It's a little over designed, but you can turn the soft aiming back on. Game isn't built for it. It's because the first two depended on an auto lock so heavily, whereas this
is a lot more runny and gunny.
You actually have to aim, and to be fair, it's not fucking 1990 whenever fucking GoldenEye came out. Crosshair controls have been fine-tuned enough that aiming doesn't feel like a fucking puddle. It works.
It's good enough for what you need.
And also now you have a melee button and a grenade button, which are both kind of Halo-ish like innovations that they don't no. I don't even know why I'm saying it, they're good. They're fine to be here. They take nothing away from the game.
I'll put my hand to God and say I never used melee during Future Perfect.
It's kind of
last night I hit somebody because I accidentally clicked the stick and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Halo's designed for it because Halo is a game which is soft open world in regards to you can play like a stealth game and sneak up on people and punch them in the back of the head, or you can use snipers and whatever. You don't need to do that in here. Again, I'm actually kind of glad they didn't do that in this game.
I mean, with Halo, the melee has a very kind of core bouncing, which is it's an instant shield breaker and you go into a headshot. This just kind of has melee because it does.
Because FPS games had melee.
Yeah, at this point, if it didn't have melee, people would be like, what?
Yeah, it's just, okay, it's here.
The majority of games that have melee is just that it's a backup if you run out of ammo. Mm-hmm. I never ran out of ammo in this game.
And that's the thing, I was just playing last night, and like, I was just kind of shocked by, like, even I was playing on normal, and like, man, that game gets hard near the end. Like, there were some sequences that I had to play a couple times, and it was like, okay, please, I need to beat this tonight. But I was just kind of surprised by like how much you have to, how it was the robot level, the second robot level that ends with the big giant mech boss fight.
Yeah.
And I was going through it, and I felt like I always had just the amount of ammo I needed. Like, everything was so tightly scripted together to where they would always give you the exact amount of ammo you needed. But to the point where, if I got to a couple checkpoints where, like, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to restart the level because, like, they keep reloading me, and I do not have enough ammo here. And but I felt like I just had to use every one of my weapons. I feel like I had to use every one of my grenades, and that was just something I didn't really remember.
I didn't run into that, but that's because I tried for so long, and it kind of started working for me. I used the gravity glove all the time. Like, and I'm not fond of the gravity glove because I think it pulls things too close to your screen so you can't see what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I was like, it was an ammo saver. It kills zombies instantly. It kills so many enemies instantly. So it's so weird that it feels like the game never really tells you. It kind of does. Like some things. It's like it could have really pulled you in on the gravity glove and said, "Hey, running low on ammo, use this. It kind of works." But
yes, that's the whole mechanic that like it again just part of the pastiche. Throw everything at it design of the game. Like it's just you have this gravity. But I was playing last night, and there was a part where you're in the underground city in the basement under the basement at the end, and like there were people like in that underground civilization that were like across the river from me, and I couldn't get to them. And they were hiding behind boxes of cover, and I accidentally pulled out the gravity glove, and I accidentally moved all the cover out of them so I could hit them all perfectly. Nice. And I was like, wait, you can actually do things with this. Maybe I should actually.
I had it in the robot level where there were like times I was in cover and I was like, shit, what do? I don't have anything. And I was like, can I use the gravity like glove on that dropped gun and get it to me? And it was like, yep, you can. You pull the gun, get that ammo, and it's like,
that's awesome.
I was using it to disable the cameras in the eugenics level because I was like, oh, this is actually an ammo
okay,
thing.
I didn't think of that.
So, this is like, it's really hard to like talk about FPS games, especially ones like this where it's like, oh, well, the level's kind of shit because you just do this, and it's like, oh, actually, you could have done this, or this, or this, and it's like, oh wow, okay, this game's really good.
Yeah, like you can use the gravity glove to grab like health and ammo and everything from like, yeah, as you said, you can like remove cover, and it's like, and I think none of us probably used it to its full potential.
Yeah.
Well, so the gravity glove is the temporal uplink from. So I mean, say something about this. So, TimeSplitters 2, I don't know if I remember, but whenever you start a level, you have like a little computer console with a mini map on it.
Yes.
That's what the gravity glove is, and you can bring up the mini map on that.
Again, playing it through last night, I pressed a button and suddenly there was a map in front of me. I was like, what is this? This game has everything. Like, I've been playing it for 17 fucking years. I didn't know there was a mini map.
The thing is, you don't need it as much, but it's like, yeah, I did that in the eugenics level, and I was like, huh, it's still here.
Yeah, that's really interesting because like the design of this game is so much more linear. You would never need it.
Yeah, exactly. There's no like need to. It's not like the beginning of Neo Tokyo.
No, exactly. Like in TS2, you need it for like the Neo Tokyo level, but in I wonder whether like this game could have needed. Oh, I say needed. Like whether it could have had like you remember in Sonic Adventure, where you could go back to previous levels and you had to like do them again with 50 rings or do them again with 50 rings in a certain time. Whether having a mini map like that would be useful for like they just reuse the levels but maybe give you more objectives. I don't know.
I believe that's the point of challenge mode where
Yes.
you just get like screwball objectives.
Yeah,
I was like I mucked around with Arcade League. Okay, let's talk about Arcade League.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
quickly do that and then we'll talk about the mansion because it has something that I think is neat.
Okay, yeah, so let's break from the story for a moment. So, I steamrolled Arcade League in this one up until Elite League. There's a level in the spaceport where you have to get, like, so many kills you have to eliminate all the other opponents in a certain amount of time. I was at it for 2 hours. I could not gold medal it because they would always spawn on the other end of this giant wraparound stage. And I just kind of went, oh, Christ. It took longer to get random, but when it got random, it hit fucking hard. But Arcade League, yeah, it's still a lot of fun. It's still like...
Still good?
Like, it was a lot easier than TimeSplitters 2. I just genuinely, like, had little resistance into Elite League, which is probably a lot better a balance than TS2, where it was like, I was struggling in beginner to get gold.
Really?
So, yeah. This game was like, no, it's actually balanced. Like, we're only going to get hard at the end. And it's
That's
still,
good.
like, very comedic.
That's cool. Because, yeah, I just remember a lot of the extra content in TimeSplitters too. And it's all the games in general. It gets extremely difficult to the point where it's like, who the fuck has anybody... Is there a human on this earth that has, like, gotten a gold medal on all of these things?
The game's designed for people where the idea is you will only need one game for the next year, and this
Basically.
is it.
Yeah. And I went and I looked up guides, and it's really funny because I said this during TimeSplitters 2, and it just kept cropping up so many times. I was reading the game FAQs of like, okay, what's the strategy that will win me this? And it's just, you really just have to get lucky.
Yeah, good luck.
Have fun.
I sometimes I'll read through. I have this collection of old game guides that I just had from when I was a kid, and like a lot for very shitty games. And one of them is like for this X-Men game, X2 Wolverine's Revenge. It's just a piece of shit. And I was trying to play through it for a video, and I was scrolling through, and just like this is something I paid money for. Like I paid $20 for this at a GameStop when I was like 9, and I was because I was replaying X2 again, and I was like, okay, I need to consult the strategy guide because this game's fucking impossible. I'm 25 years old and I can't beat this, so I need to consult this old strategy guide. And I scrolled page 150, the level I'm at, and it's basically just like, you just need to get lucky. I'm sorry. What? You're supposed to be a professional. This was on shelves.
That's not a strategy. That's just common knowledge. What the fuck?
I mean, it's still like TimeSplitters 2 Harry Tipper versus like Jungle Women has my favorite line I've ever seen written in a strategy guide now, which was just, if you shoot first, you should probably survive. Great tip. That's fucking tell that to people in Westerns.
Nothing in the single player ever gets that difficult.
It's very much like, hey, do you want an actual spice out of this? Do you want some kick? boy, do we have something for you. This will beat the hell out of you if you want to win.
I guess it's funny because, like, maybe like you have to play the other Time Splitters before this one because TS2 is very much like you do the campaign is like a treat, but it's kind of like here's how we ease you into what the challenges are going to do, and also it's kind of a training mechanism for multiplayer in like the way that like Quake 2 kind of was, where like we built a single player, but the multiplayer is kind of where the juice is. Versus Time Splitters 3, where it's like, oh no, we built this engine which does really good single player campaigns, but it also does really good multiplayer, really good challenges. Have fun.
Yeah,
God.
it's a fucking bounty. It's a feast fit for a king.
There's so much. There's so much in this game. Fucking Haunted Mansion, Spooky Mansion level. It's really good. I like when the deer pops out of the wall because the deer head goes mental and you think, oh, this is an Evil Dead reference, and then it pops out and then it goes, oh no, they're actually doing their own thing. Cool.
Yes.
All right. Neat.
I really love that subversion, that Evil Dead subversion of you're just, okay, it's just cackling and then it fucking comes out of the whole wall.
Yeah.
And that's does he say his iconic line during the boss fight, or is that only when you select him in the multiplayer menu? Do either of you know what I'm talking about?
What is the iconic?
I should probably know this because you played
The moose is loose.
Oh yeah.
That is, that is the character selector. It's not in the single.
Okay, damn.
Damn it.
That's sad.
I know the zombie when you select him in the multiplayer says, "Have I got red on me?" Because they had to pay the master.
Hey, big Shaun of the Dead reference.
And they had to because Time Splitters 1 is in Shaun of the Dead. So
Yeah.
Oh, I always forget about that. Yeah, they're playing
yeah.
on the couch and they're playing at the end. I think, right?
exactly right. Zombie Lover's really neat. Joe Beth Cassidy should be annoying, but she's not. But so that's all good. And then you go underground, and then it turns into a science.
She plays off of Cortez really well because you think, oh, she's just going to be a dumb valley girl, but because Cortez is equally stupid in his own way,
Yeah, they're just too.
It's funny that you think, oh, she's going to be the dumb teenage kid, but it's like actually she's probably less naive than him.
No, he's a himbo, and she's like she's.
I was
smart.
literally about to say it's himbo and bimbo. Like
Yeah,
it's
himbo and
literally
bimbo
that
solving crimes.
It's the League of Bimbos.
There's like one joke which I think is maybe a bit skeevy, but it did make me laugh, so I can't knock it. Which was just
Is it the one where he like looks up her skirt or something? Like, when he's, like
no, okay, I forgot that. That's more skeevy.
Yeah,
It was
that
more
is
like
skeevy.
it was when he teleports away at the end, and she just kind of goes, he was too old anyway.
yeah,
I think that's just a nice little ironic pang on the level.
yeah.
I think the reason I want to talk about this level is because so this game does something that nobody asked them to do, but they decided to do it, and I really appreciate it, which is they decided to explain what are the Time Splitters. And so in Time Splitters 1, you get no explanation what they are, apart from the booklet from the game that says they are a race of aliens that are invading time, and they try and stop you from doing things that can correct the timeline. So you steal somebody's money, or you steal this ancient artifacts. Whatever, that's fine. Time Splitters 2 gives a bit more explanation, which is that they're using time crystals to travel to different points in history to fuck it up, and you hop back in time and you fix that all up, but also get the time crystals. Fine, okay. Nobody at any point says, yeah, but I want to know what the time... What planet do they come from? There's never the Mr. B tongue question of what do they eat. Nobody's asking that about Time Splitters because of the tone of the game is such that it's like, it's fine, they're just like... they're imps, you know, they're just like enemies from wherever. They don't But this game decided, why don't we explain where the Time Splitters come from? And they do it in like... I remember playing it as a kid, and you get to the reveal, and I was just kind of like, oh, interesting reveal, okay. But then replaying it as an adult and doing these things again, I went, oh, this is actually really clever how they do it. You go into the mansion, and it's the mansion from Resident Evil where they're making zombies. And the whole reason that they're making zombies is because the guy who's in charge of the zombie operations is Jacob Crow. And his whole shtick is he wants to live forever. Bam. Simple thing. I just don't want to die. Easy. How am I going to do that? I'm going to make zombies. Fair enough. Then you start fighting the zombies, and some of the zombies get electrified and start shooting lightning at you, and you go, oh, that's a bit like what the Time Splitters do in Time Splitters 1 and 2. And then, like, other stuff happens to them, which is also... some of them start, like, teleporting. You go, oh, that's a bit like Time Splitters as well. oh wait, oh what the fuck? No. This is where he's making time. Oh, this is why the time splitters are like they are. Oh, for fuck's sake! And I had a big smile on my face when I figured that out. It was very neat.
That is
Yeah, no,
very,
you told
that
that
is
to me, and I
very
was like,
cool.
huh, yeah, I didn't connect those dots.
No, I didn't either. The in-game, that's a great in-game way, diegetically, like, because just showing you that these are the original progenitors of these other creatures, like.
And it comes hours before the game spells it out.
Well, no, exactly. But the fact that they're doing it all the way early, and they're doing it, and like, you know, if I was on the development team, I'd do the shitty thing of, oh, what if Cortez says, damn, this reminds me of the TimeSplitters? Because, like, I want to make sure that everybody can see how clever I am, that I've managed to work this into the game. But no, they wait until right at the end of the game to explain that, essentially, oh, yeah, there are no aliens in this. The aliens of TimeSplitters are all human. They're all the cybernetic experiments of me trying to figure out I don't want to die, essentially. And they've now become my army to make sure that you guys never stop that from happening. They're my corrective measure to make sure that this always happens. And it's like, neat. I really like that this is a thing. It does, as a result, make TimeSplitters 3 potentially the last TimeSplitters story, because after that you go... But then they could go back to TimeSplitters 2 and go, oh, okay, we don't need a plot. Bam, 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 bam. Stuff happens. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Do time agents, do whatever.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. It's really
fun,
neat.
yeah. And it's just funny as well, because like with the thing of the monkeys and the time splitters, it's just, I love it when, you know, you have all these kind of creative juices flowing and just throwing everything into a pot, and then at just the last second someone has to go, how do we make all of this work together? And then they just fucking do it. They just
like that's
cleanly
really interesting
tie
that they
everything
like that.
together into a nice little bow, and it's like, it's the most beautiful fucking thing that can happen in art. It's just
I love I love when you have to bring in a continuity person to just kind of like make sure, and when stuff fits together in a really nice way, it's just like one of my favorite things in like any bit of fiction.
It's a fucking 3-pointer from half court. It's
just another thing about the game is that it's like it could have been just a random comedy. It could have just been another game where they just, you know, fun scenarios, fun little intro and outro cutscenes for all the scenarios. But they really did something with it. They pushed it, and like they created a story that 17 years later I still get a kick out of.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You were telling me these things like, what the fuck? I didn't even connect these zombies that shoot electricity like oh my god. And it's just nice and tight, and they really put thought into it, and like a lot of
and it manages to stay pretty consistent. Like the eugenics level is funny because it is just a perfect dark level, essentially. Like you start on the roof, and it's all about turning off security systems and stuff. Yeah, it's like the first level in perfect dark, and like even the character in it that you fight alongside is like a Joanna Dark style.
Yeah,
she could have had her own game, and it probably would have been really neat. But she's like saddled with Cortez as he goes on his little adventure. And again, they do the same thing. You go into the lab underneath it, and it's they're doing science again. They're doing the same science experiments that they did with the zombies. But again, these ones look more like the time splitters. They're all like these kind of large monstrous creatures, which look like what the time splitters at the end of the game look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true, very true.
It's very neat.
Yeah. And they do all these things. It's a testament to just the time and effort they put into it, and just like Snake, you said, like the fact they don't call direct attention to it. No. It's just, but it's all done now that you're putting this out in front of me in a very direct way. It's like, oh my god, this makes so much sense. This is like so consistent, and there's such a build of these creatures into what the time splitters end up looking like at the end of the game. Yeah. Like, what the fuck? They did not need to put this fucking effort into this video game.
Everything just slots together nicely, and I just want to give a big shout out to them bringing back the fucking second sight like computer systems.
The interactive computers, I love it. Yeah. I love it when games do that shit.
I love the
random stupid thing.
I love the little second sight operating system they've got going, which is now used like near enough exclusively for jokes, but I don't care. It's fun that they have all these weird little bits of fucking joke computer lore things off to the side.
Oh, the game is full of, like, on the train level where you try and, like, catch Kalos, you can stay in his room for ages and drive around his cat.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Yeah.
For no reason at all.
And you go into the challenge mode, there's a whole cat race.
Yeah. Okay, actually, you know, this level's like a Resident Evil riff, but it also has a fucking minecart section.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country, they're bringing it back.
Oh yeah, Donkey. I didn't even think of Donkey Kong Country. I was more thinking Resident Evil 4, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
That
This
too.
came out. Well, this came out the same year as. I think this came out before RE. Oh no, RE4 was right at the beginning of the year.
It was
so no, this would've
2004. Was RE4.
No, RE4 was right. It was like February 2005, like really, really early.
Oh, okay.
But this came out in March 21st. So there's no way they could have played it before this came out. So
I do want to ask then, I want to just present this question and get you guys' opinions. What are your 3 favorite multiplayer characters in TimeSplitters? Do you have any?
let's
Yes.
sidebar for the multiplayer for a second. So, who are my 3 favorite multiplayer characters? God,
Because there's so many stupid, wonderful characters in this game.
I
Okay,
like-
so I
it's-
like Robofish. I
also
like
like Robofish.
I like the handyman. Pick me. I'm quite handy. The man with a hand for a head. Even though I fucking hate his stage in TimeSplitters 2 bloody arcade league, he's funny. I like him. The third is a bit trickier. I can't remember. Robot. It's not. No. Robot 117. That's the female robot on the cover of 2, right? I'm trying to remember the
Yes.
specific
It might be.
numbering. I mean, I like Tipper. There's a lot. I like Gingerbread Man.
Gingerbread Man, classic. Hell yeah.
I like the stupid characters that like just don't work in the story. I like Crispin. I don't know why I like Crispin.
I've always liked Crispin too. I don't know why I like Crispin so much.
Crispin's the guy on fire, right?
He's the
Yes,
fire
just a
zombie.
crispy
yeah.
zombie.
He's just a burnt corpse.
I Crispin's always been up there for me. I always like playing as the TimeSplitters themselves.
Yep.
I definitely the Deer Hunter is my go-to just because of the moose is loose. And I love all the variations of monkeys. I like the RoboCop monkey. I like the
Oh
the
yeah,
zombie.
Robochim's really good.
I like a basic monkey. I actually got. Okay, no, Crispin, I remember now. Crispin, like, I really love his line because he just gets up and he's like, "Burn, baby, burn."
That's what it was. I was trying to remember what his line was. That's perfect. Yeah.
I'm really. Some pod honesty is coming here. So, folks at home, single player was beaten. Single player for this game beat really quickly because love the single player in this game. Easy goes down really well. Multiplayer was a bit more of a challenging prospect. Me and Snake have been talking about this in regards to we should just parsec these games at some point, but we never do, which is a shame because
I'm always just writing something and I never get around to.
we're busy folks.
I'm the horrible friend who's like, you have to contact me, and I'll probably be up for something, but I am never the one reaching out.
I feel you.
Yeah.
It's
I
funny
feel with you.
because one thing that like all the reviews at the time that really loved this game, the one thing that they all pointed out was that it can do online multiplayer now. This was the thing that was holding back TimeSplitters 2 was that it was still split screen, which again, really funny to think about in hindsight because you can just parsec it. But like it supported 16-player multiplayer. It could compete with like Halo and stuff now. Again, the game did okay sales-wise, but like this came out the year after Halo 2, which was the Xbox Live game. So like nothing touched it. And like a lot of the reviews kind of say, this probably isn't going to replace Halo 2 if you're on the Xbox. But if you're on PS2, which has no good FPS games, there you go. Enjoy. Here's your multiplayer online game, I guess.
I'm trying to remember a PS2 shooter to like fucking contradict you right now, and why can't I think of a one?
SOCOM.
I played SOCOM online back in the day. I won't even defend it.
Good.
Fine.
Metal Gear Online.
Oh, there was that. There was that, but that only started at 4,
I
right?
played MGO 1, yeah. That's fine.
It's on Subsistence.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
That's where.
No,
that's where it started.
Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence was the origin of its multiplayer online mode. I had it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no one
It's
talks
really
about
good.
it. Everyone talks about MGO. I mean, it's funny. Everyone talks about that, but they never really point out, why is this called MGO 2? Because it fucking began in Metal Gear Solid 3, but it probably... Here's the thing, 'cause I say, oh yeah, I played it, but I can't even be Billy Big Bollocks about it because I don't remember a single thing about what it was actually like. So,
God.
yeah.
Cold Winter, a game that we will cover at some point because it was developed by the people who would then go on to do 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. That was also online. That also had like online support for deathmatch. But yeah, I don't know. The PS2 didn't have like a. I guess this was it, maybe. But
I'm sure there's some that we're missing, but yeah.
Yeah.
PS2
Like
Online.
that.
I had PS2 Online. I played EverQuest Online. Don't know why. I'm not an MMO guy. That was like my first MMO experience was on the fucking PS2 of all things.
FF11, I think, was like the thing that was packaged with the hard drive. Like that was the selling point for the online.
I'm gonna look up PS2 online games. You two go ahead.
But quick question: so, how did you replay this game? Because I replayed it on Dolphin. So the GameCube didn't even have on. Well, the GameCube was the first to have a broadband adapter, but it didn't support online for this game, so I wouldn't have even been able to play it that way. So
yeah, I played original TimeSplitters 2 all those years back on GameCube, and I replayed 3 here on my original Xbox.
Oh, very nice.
I straight up was doing classic hardware, classic controllers, as legit as I could.
What did you have, the Duke or the S controller?
I don't know the difference. The classic one.
Oh, the Duke. Yeah, the Duke was the big one.
The Duke is the chunk. The S is the one with the redesign.
If you ever meet me and play a game with me, you'll notice I hold controllers in really fucked up ways, and that's because as a kid I had really small hands and I had the Duke. So I developed this weird claw grip where I kind of like have my index finger wrapped around one of the analogs to kind of like tug it.
That's interesting. I've never seen that formation.
A friend of mine would do the claw for when they used to do Halo 2 competitive.
I actually think it kind of works because I can do like analog and face buttons like pretty much.
Yeah,
which helps in some games. Also, James, I did look up online PS2 games and I found another future episode we got to do. Resident Evil Outbreak.
Oh yeah, I want to do Dead Aim at some point because Dead Aim
is garbage.
It's like a really dodgy version of RE4 months before RE4 came out. So
fair enough.
It's literally a third-person action game that whenever you want to shoot turns into an FPS game. It's so weird.
What?
Yeah, it had light guns.
This is Dead Aim.
Yeah, this is Dead Aim, and yeah, it had it was designed for light gun, but they also designed it with like controllers in mind, so like you can play it like an FPS, like a really dodgy FPS.
It's interesting. Yeah, so many Resident Evil games. There's so many that I haven't even heard of that one.
Oh yeah.
To bring it up while we're on multiplayer though, and so James, you don't have your free favs.
Oh no, I was kind of, as we were going along, I was like kind of a group. Nah, so the funny thing is, I did play a lot of multiplayer on this, but I've had to have a look at the page to remind myself.
Of course, there's 150 of them.
Yeah, I like Duck. He was cool.
Yeah, Duck's fun.
I totally forgot. There's a character design called Joe Barth Cassidy who's introduced in the zombie level. Which, again, is cute because it's like the Notre Dame level from 2, where it's like you're saving maidens, but some of them are actually time splitters. They do the same trick here, and they use the old-fashioned time splitters design, so it's like, no, we haven't totally redesigned these enemies. The old time splitters are also still canonical to Time Splitters 3. It's just that the brute time splitters is like, this guy's getting into my inner sanctum now, so I gotta break out the big guns. God, the plot of this game is so airtight. It's great. So yeah, I like. God, I like all the weird. Oh yeah, Calamari was a cool one.
Oh yeah, Calamari. Calamari, like they were in the plot in the first 2 games. I kind of mentioned that was the kind of like Planet X stuff. They remove all the cheesy 50s sci-fi, so like the Calamari and their war with another race is just totally absent from the plot. Probably isn't a great loss, probably keeps things very focused, but it's like this funny little, like, some of the goofier stuff is just, like, excised completely.
Yeah, and I think, again, the fact that the linear is, like, it's always constantly going forward, it feels like there's only now one timeline in, like, Time Splitters versus... In Time Splitters 2, it kind of felt like especially the Planet X stuff kind of felt like a divergence point, or it's sort of like the Futurama thing where you keep seeing, like, when Fry gets frozen and the world keeps getting rebuilt, and one is, like, dark future and then it gets destroyed, and then one is, like, medieval and then it gets destroyed, and then it's all the retro future stuff, so it's like, oh no, it's all canonical, it's just that styles change so massively between time periods, because eugenics and Robo War do look very similar to one another.
Yeah, there's not as much distinction.
No, we are talking about multiplayer at the moment, though. Multiplayer is very good in this. but the funny thing is that me and Snake...
That's the tricky part about, like, either of us two talking about multiplayer in this is, besides anything else, it's like, it's everything that was good in Time Splitters 2, but more of it.
Yeah.
Like, only the single-player content has really seen, like, a shake-up outside of the controls, so it's like...
Yeah.
So you've got to bring. I'm sorry to say,
Yeah,
Charlie,
so-
it's all on you to bring. What's the new perspective on multiplayer?
Well, yeah. What's your multiplayer memories? What's your juice with?
I mean, so multiplayer. I played a lot with friends when I was younger. Like this was the kind of game that I definitely did split screen with buddies, and it was like joyous, fucking joyous, endless joy of just all these different modes.
I think you're like a few years younger than us, so it's like I had that with TimeSplitters too, and like you're the next step on having that with Future Perfect.
Yeah.
Pretty much, basically, and yeah, I didn't play a whole lot online. Just I don't even know if I had online at that point. I don't think I did. But yeah, I the multiplayer is so wonderful, man. All the different modes, all the different like fucking virus is one of the most fun. Even playing with bots, I just played it with bots for like an hour last night, just going through all the levels and just the way it builds, and you'll see somebody on green fire halfway across the map. You're like, okay, things are escalating. I need to keep moving and like
get running.
Just all the different types, all the different modes. It just keeps things so much fun, and all the different customization elements. Like it is one of the most, even today. You look at it and it's like, this is so customizable. So,
it's such a package, yeah. Like the nearest thing that it gets, like Halo 3 is like the nearest that kind of gets to that in regards to all the multiplayer modes and custom stuff and Forge. But
it's funny to think with the virus mode as well, is that talking about Halo 2, because I remember when me and my mates were playing Halo 2 online, is like very late in Halo 2's lifespan, I got invited by a friend one day to a server, and it was like, oh, we've come up with this mode, like, people have come up with this mode, and, like, everyone's camped in a room, and they got BRs, and there's one guy with a sword trying to get in, like, oh, when a player on the side gets killed, it's like, okay, you have to swap to his team, swords only. It's like, huh? It's like, yeah, and it's like, TimeSplitters had this. And it's like, Halo, the community invented it, and then in the next game, it's like, there's like, oh yeah, we got this new mode, and it's like, man, it's funny to trace this little lineage, because, yeah, it was like, it was funny playing all these games growing up and kind of them gradually inventing zombie mode. One by one. Like,
that came later,
history repeating itself as they suddenly realize it's really fun to just have one guy be a zombie.
And it's really funny how much of that predates, like, how big the zombie genre then eventually became, like, after, like, what? Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead and 28 Days Late out.
Right, yeah. It was 2004. It was right around that time, right when it started out.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the zombie craze. That was like when it was kicking off, and it would be about 2009 where people were starting to feel a little tired of it. But it kept going.
Well, yeah, Undead Nightmare, I think, is the point where it's people are like, yeah, this is...
There's a general malaise period of like 5 years from 2009 to 2014 where zombie games kept coming out and people going, aren't we sick of zombies yet? And the figures all said no, but the articles kept happening.
It was funny because they all went into development around the time that like Left Dead blew up, and it was like, zombies are the new thing, but games take 5 years to develop, so whoops.
But then luckily for zombies, I guess, you had The Walking Dead start in 2010, and that generally speaking, zombies revitalized again even after they started to fade out.
It reinvigorated all over, and then The Walking Dead game was like, oh, we can be really emotional and
And then The Last of Us, like, the year afterwards, you know?
I always forget that's technically a zombie game. Like,
technically, it's not the thing that you think about in The Last of Us, but that is what it is about.
I guess there's a beautiful poetry in that they're unkillable, and they will just keep coming back.
Yeah.
But and that's somehow jumping on from talking about, virus mode. What was, so... You know, you and mates playing Future Perfect. Did you have like a main mode? Did you have like this was the one that was like the default? We just want to play some Future Perfect.
Team deathmatch on any classic. Of the customized.
Fair enough.
Team deathmatch on any of the maps that me and my friends made, and I think that's something that I want to just mention at least is the map maker.
Okay, well, we got to talk about that.
Okay, here's where I can get involved. So Snake had wonderful anecdotes in the Team I keep wanting to call it Team Fortress 2.
Team Fortress.
The
I do have wonderful Team Fortress 2 anecdotes, but...
Yeah, but we can't talk about that on the podcast. Yeah. It's too good.
Yeah.
Technically so's this, but we're not doing a Valve mini-series. TimeSplitters 2, you did have some good memories in regards to like all your corridor maps and stuff.
I did pick up, Charlie, you said the maps me and my friends made, which I was the sole map maker in my group of friends. I was offloaded the duty of being the map maker.
Yeah. I definitely... It was me and my friends, as in 90% me, 10% my friends.
Ah, okay. All right, yeah.
So, TimeSplitters 3 was where TimeSplitters Feature Perfect is where I really got into map making stuff when I was a kid, because even though I replayed this on Dolphin, and whatever. My original version was also the Xbox version, and the reason that I bought it is because of Xbox Live, and not so much playing it online multiplayer, but I'll be able to download people's maps, which never became a feature, but that was the hype of shit. I'll be able to play all these really cool, especially because this is the game that introduced you could make story maps where they were almost they were like little challenge modes, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. And it's a shame because it never materialized, but I really did get quite decently into it. But it was funny because I was one of those kids who always wanted to make the most ambitious thing possible, but I had never quite realized you need to make small stuff first to then kind of work up to the big stuff. So I would just make just giant floor plans or just stairs that went nowhere and stuff like that.
Yeah, just get really creative, because the tools are of the TimeSplitters map editor are very limited in that they're snap right angles, very specific shapes.
It's very gritty,
very grid based,
and it's
but
very
it's also
connector heavy. Though it's an improvement from TS 1 and 2, where the connector types are so particular.
The cute thing about playing all these games back to back is that TimeSplitters 1 had a map maker, and in development interviews they said the two things that we needed to get, the two big selling points that are going to make this different from Perfect Dark and GoldenEye, is that we need to have really good bot support and a map maker, because multiplayer PC games, they do map stuff, and this is what we want to do on consoles. And it's really nice that has carried on through all of the trilogy. And basically what they did with every game was that they made the map maker easier to use. So when you get to 3, it is really streamlined in a really nice way,
Yeah, it was, for a start, not opening. When I opened the map maker menu after having played the map makers in TS 1 and 2, I only failed to do this just because I've been busy lately, but I tried with all the games on this podcast. I would open the map maker and see, in half an hour, can I have a playable level with bot support? And it's always been yes. And it will definitely be yes on this one, but I just didn't have the time. But I did look at the menu and I was like, oh, thank God, they organized the room types into fucking categories. That was the worst thing about the last 2 games. You just had to look at them and hope.
The best feature that it has is that you press the Z key and it just gives you a very quick 3D snapshot of what the map looks like.
You just get a little preview.
Oh my God,
And now they've added physics objects, cars, turrets, little things that you can add. And that was actually something I was thinking into, was man, if I had the ability to place cover, this would be great. And then I was playing, I was like, yeah, they did add that. There it is.
Mm-hmm. It's really good.
It really is. And I mean,
Team Fortress. Which TimeSplitters 4 happened?
See, we're talking about Team Fortress now.
Just going back, always back to Team Fortress.
All right, let's open the Hammer editor. Let's talk.
Oh, God. Really streamlined. So simple to use. I came up, when you were talking about multiplayer stuff, I came up with the most insane theory that I'm now going to present on this podcast, and it's it'll be your two's job to destroy my idea, which is, I think that the TimeSplitters and GoldenEye before it really works as a split screen multiplayer game because it's so closed, so much about CQC and close quarters environments, versus the moment that FPS games went online, maps had to become a lot larger and a lot more about sight lines, because having a single screen to yourself made screens so much of a real estate thing that CQC stuff, you don't really need it anymore, or it's people didn't really like it that much. So Fortnite couldn't work as a split screen game. Fortnite feels like the end point of
I feel that's more of a player count issue than a screen real estate issue.
Oh no, I'm not saying that you have 100 Fortnite screens. You get more screen real estate as people die.
I'm not even saying that. It's I'm talking about the CQC aspect, where it's screen watching doesn't matter as much because this map is 4 rooms big I'm not. I mean, yeah, there was so many screen watching arguments growing up. It's like you're watching my screen, it's like, no, you can't prove it. Da, da, da. We were all shits about it, but you can't help it. It's right fucking there. I remember.
But time to death is like it's like really quick, which
but it's all my kind of anecdotal anti-evidence is that when me and my friends would play Halo together, it would always be, even if we were like doing split screen, be like, oh, let's play Blood Gulch, oh, let's play Sidewinder.
Yeah.
We still liked the big maps. We were still like hounds for like, because we were kids. We were impressed with, Jesus, this map is big. It's great. It's amazing. And then we'd ramp ghosts off of tanks.
Yeah, Halo does undo my argument, because even in even Infinite, people wanted split screen, which at that point is like we've had online.
That was a godsend during this era. Like me and a friend would play like Perfect Dark Zero online split screen. Like we'd be in the same house and we'd be going online and like teaming up against people. We played so much COD Black Ops because split screen online multiplayer. Call of Duty 3, which is a dog shit game, we played fucking multiplayer split screen online. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad theory, but
I just wondered whether because of the sort of the time to death and the smallness of like CQC, it feels like a better fit for split screens. But again, good game design's good game design. So maybe I'm just talking up my ass. So.
I feel like it just. I don't know. I feel like my take on that is maybe it just comes down to just the evolution of game design.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Like corridor shooters, like we're in 2005 was like kind of the end of the era of corridor shooters, and then you get to 2007 and Modern Warfare it just changes everything.
Yeah.
Even though like that it's still a corridor shooter basically, but like you said, sightlines and the multiplayer arenas are so much bigger, and I feel like with TimeSplitters in particular, it feels like a bandwidth issue, a money issue.
1,000%, yeah. It is the funniest thing that they don't try and recreate the design of Halo in any of the levels, especially in the campaign of like even in just to kind of get back to the plot, and I guess maybe just wrap up talking about the plot so we can
I do want to just quickly bring up one of my favorite map making anecdotes.
Go ahead.
And it's very like early on, but there was no plan when the guy who made Dust made Dust.
Yeah.
He made it, he threw it out, it exploded, and it's like, this is amazing. It's like, and he kind of started thinking, okay, I got to really work for Dust 2. So we spent 10 minutes drawing a map on a piece of paper before making it. And that's the most famous multiplayer map. And it was like, the guy thought, I need to work harder on this, and planned for 10 minutes. And it's like, I don't know, it's that Wild West kind of period of like learning what multiplayer map design is. And it's also the fun of playing old multiplayer games where you kind of look at it and I don't even want to say they didn't know how to make a map, because they did, but it's like the rules aren't set in stone yet, and that actually leads to some really fun stuff. Like the Venice level in this game fucking blows, but it's also kind of fun. It's like it's multi-layered, it's really confusing to navigate. It makes no goddamn sense from a mapping perspective, but it's great. It's fun.
Yeah. It's before things like map design became homogenized,
and it's really funny because like they were so on the cutting edge of like FPS games, anyways, that like. People looked at GoldenEye and said, the maps in this are fantastic, how did you come up with it? And the guy can't say, oh, because I've had 10 years of map making experience, because that doesn't exist. The guy was an architect. And the whole reason the guy was hired at Rare, not because of his architectural thing, was because he knew how to use an SGI workstation, which after Donkey Kong Country fucking blew up, they said, oh, all our games are going to be SGI stuff now. And they put together a team of like non-game industry people who knew how to use SGI workstations to make Killer Instincts. So pretty much the GoldenEye team is the Killer Instinct team. And so they all go forward, but they keep Carl Hilton, who is the architect guy, and he's designing maps pretty much all the way through till Future Perfect. So
that's crazy. That's really interesting.
It's really mad.
And this is like this is before, I guess, like I mean, we say like before. This is 2005. Video games are still like they're still there's still a little influx, but things are definitely still getting nailed down at this point. Yeah. But like the fact that they're like how many they're still using architects to design levels as opposed to level designers, professionals with decades of experience. But that's such an interesting tack to take as opposed to like when you get nothing but video game designers designing video games, you kind of get the tunnel vision of we all play video games. Like,
no, and it becomes a bit like the AI art thing that you just keep taking from video games, and eventually everything kind of becomes the same. you know?
It reminds me a lot of, and I don't know if this is apocryphal, you two might know better than me, but there was old kind of things about if you're interviewing at Nintendo, don't say you're into video games. Talk about, oh, I'm into hiking, I'm into bug collecting, I'm into this. They want people who come in with like life experience because that brings kind of life into the games.
Yeah, that was always Miyamoto's thing, was that he likes hiring people who weren't like gamers. He hiring people with different skills and stuff. And then initially that was just because of the fact that there were no game design schools. Like, you didn't hire people like that. You hired programmers, but if all you did was program, like, you just see stuff in maths and like whatever. But they liked hiring like people with hobbies. Like, even fucking Breath of the Wild has fishing and like cooking in it, because the guy was like, well, when I go hiking, I like making shit from like anything that I pick up, and that's why that is in the game. And like, you wouldn't get that purely from just if we use these variables, and not to poop on programmers or anything, because programmers and not every programmer is the same. Programmers are brilliant, but I mean,
I will drag it back to TimeSplitters when I say you get a sense that they really love genre pieces. They were film buffs.
They love film.
They were big into pop culture, and that's why you have like all these riffs on like things that they liked in films.
And it's the TimeSplitters games turned me around on fucking Conker's Bad Fur Day, which is a platforming game for children. What if Super Mario could swear? It's like, it's Happy Tree Friends. It's like, what if something cute and cuddly was actually naughty? And I hate like that. I just hate like stuff that's like that. But it's full of movie pastiche stuff. It's because Rare love like cinema and like, just riffing on films. And again, like TimeSplitters 3 is like Conker's Bad Fur Day, but like as an FPS game, and it really works.
Yeah, and it carries the spirit without like. This is another kind of just interesting thing about the game, is that it's M, and it's like it's kind of the widest M that it's like Conker's Bad Fur Day in the way it's irreverent, insane, wacky. It gets weird, but it's also like, again, that's just the softest M. It's not as vulgar or disgusting.
I never thought of that. It is. Because it would have been like a 15 or a 16 in the UK, but it doesn't. It's like a 12A. It's not that like.
Yeah. I because when it came out, I was I don't know, 11 or 12 or 10 or something, and TimeSplitters 2 was T. So my mom let me get that. Yeah. But when TimeSplitters 3 came out and it was suddenly M, it was like, wait, can you get this one? Am I going to get this for you? And I'm unashamed to say that I cried for 6 hours just to get that goddamn game in my hand. I threw a fucking fit.
In fairness, that's how I managed to get Snake on the podcast. He was but then I cried for 6 hours. And
It works. No one wants to see a person just sit there and sob.
No.
It's really funny. I'm now remembering, like, my parents would not get me they wouldn't get me this like bloody sports game when I was a kid.
Oh, like Blood Brawl.
Death Row. They wouldn't get me Death Row because they saw on the back of the box swearing. But then they bought me Postal 2 without question when I was like 10, 11.
I remember one of my clearest memories, but it was like when I was 10. I bought a PC and, I didn't buy a PC. I was 10, I didn't have anything. So when I was a child, I used to use my dad's old Macintosh, and that had no games on it because, they say it had no games, it had Marathon. But it didn't have games on it. And then I was like, I really want a personal computer so I can use art programs and, maybe play games on it. It's like, okay, fair enough. And then we got a PC World, which is like a chain of it's a big box PC.
It's where Gary Glitter got busted.
Yeah, famous. Not just Gary. Was it Gary Glitter or was it Pete Townsend from The Who?
No, Gary Glitter turned his PC into PC World to have it repaired, and they found questionable materials.
Yeah, they found terabytes of pictures of yeah.
Sorry, it's just whenever PC World is mentioned, that's like top of my fucking brain.
That's your go-to. That's your autocomplete.
I would not buy anything from PC World. It's overpriced rubbish, but they
no, exactly. But at the time, we didn't have any better. But he takes me to PC World and we buy a graphics card and he goes, right, what's the game to get for it? And this was like, so I must have been 11. So this was when Grand Theft Auto Vice City came out to PC and I was like, Dad, we got to get this game. It's the best. And he just looks at it and he goes, it's an 18, but then he looks at the back of the box and he goes, it's because it's set in the 80s.
Everything from the 80s is just...
I could see his understanding though. It's just like, well, nobody under the age of 18 is gonna fucking get it.
I don't know. I think
my son hasn't seen Miami Vice.
You know your dad better than I do, but I think your dad was just creating an excuse because he wanted Vice City.
No. He didn't give it. No, Dad didn't particularly like video games, but he was also he didn't particularly care about questionable material and stuff. He was just sort of like whatever. If it's that bad, I'm sure you'll tell me. But and that was my first GTA game, and that's why Vice City has but I didn't shoot anybody. All I used to do was just drive around in that game, listen to the radio, and do stunts.
I have another weird
Get
memory.
haircuts.
I have another really weird parent memory. It's my mum. I don't know why, but one day she told me, I was like 6 or 7. I was really young, and she just told me, there's this game that came out, and you can smash up shops, and you can throw stuff through windows and start fires and do all this. And I'm like 6 or 7, and I'm getting really excited, and I'm like, can I have it? And she's like, no. And I just, my child brain just instantly pegged, why did you tell me about it then?
What are you doing to me? Why would you do this?
I just actually realised, I think my dad was maybe more pro GTA anyways, because I remember showing him Ocarina of Time once, and he sees Link in Kakori Forest or whatever it is, full of the little kids. He goes something, and he goes, and even though I'm 9 at the time, he goes, well, it's a bit soft, isn't it? So I think he was hoping that GTA Vice City would come along to be like, there we go.
I'm imagining
mature game.
I'm imagining your dad now is just smoking a cigarette, going, "Don't want my son growing up to be a fairy.
I don't want him to live in a forest with a green hat on. It's like that.
Get him to be this man's game. Yeah, men in the 80s, they were real.
Yeah, fucking nothing soft in the 80s. Unfortunately, my dad was a dork. I mean, he did give me a Macintosh as a child, so there you go.
It's like, Douglas Adams owns these.
Oh yeah, that's true. My dad met I told you the story before, Snake, but he met Scott. I was about to call him fucking Scott the Woz. He met one of the. I don't think he ever met Jaws, but he met Steve Wozniak, who was one of the founders of Apple, because when he worked for British Telecom, they were working on something which was you could plug it through the modem into a Macintosh. And he was working with a guy who was just a slick salesman guy. And this American with a beard comes over and asks him about it. And the fucking guy just goes over and starts schmoozing. My dad's looking at him like, you're a moron. That's fucking Steve Wozniak. He knows what these computers are. You don't have to explain what an Apple II is to Steve Wozniak. TimeSplitters future perfect though. No,
what are you doing? What are you talking about?
What are we talking about? I'm just trying to think of if there's anything else to mention.
We have been on the mansion level for about 5 hours now. We've been every topic.
Snake, I called you Jacob Crow earlier. Well, I called you YouTube's Jacob Crow.
Yeah, because you know about my wishes for immortality.
You have famously said I'm not planning on dying, so you and Jacob Crow. What are our opinions on Jacob Crow? Because he's weird, because he kind of toes the line of a rare style mustache twirling kind of cartoon villain, but he does fit for TimeSplitters in a way.
I really like Jacob Crow. I think he's a fun villain. I kind of wish there was a bit more done with him, but I also just love that it's like you said, the cutscene that always cracks you up where he meets his younger self, it's grandpa, and it's he has to explain to his younger self, look, I slaved my whole life to make this, fucking have it and do this. And
he puts it in his mouth.
It's just a really funny. Oh yeah, press the red button, and he does. And
no, that one. And again, he has a really funny again. If this was Halo, even though what's the fucking guy called in Halo 2 who gives Chief the medals?
You talking about Johnson?
No. Right at the beginning, the guy
Miranda
who wears
keys.
Not Miranda. He's the guy right at the beginning who goes, Chief, what do you think? What do you think you're doing? Yeah, send it back the package or whatever it is.
Oh, I can't remember.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I think he has a weird name General Gross or General Awful. It's
Not
something
great.
weird.
General Awful.
Yeah, but he looks like Jacob Crow, and you can imagine if this was a more serious game that Jacob Crow would be I want immortality. I'm going to take over. But the fact that he sounds like an old fucking prospect, he sounds like Krampus Simpson. He's great.
I think he's I agree with Snake. I think there could have been more done with him. That's I just feel like there's there are moments of he was like one rewrite away from being a really good video game villain.
Or even like, much like this podcast, this game feels like it maybe needed like another 2 hours in it, or like it just needed extra levels where we could see more of Crow. Maybe go back to some weird time, like go to the Aztecs again, or go to like Chicago again, you know, and just see what this guy's up to, you know?
Yeah, because with the whole time traveling element of the plot, like I feel like he maintains he's a consistent villain throughout.
Yeah,
and I feel like if you meshed him a bit more with the time traveling premise of making him kind of different in each of the levels, and you see him at different ages at the very least, which is a good thing to do and a good way to do it. And I'm not gonna say they made bad calls with Crow, but I just think they could have done a little bit more here and there to flesh it out. But I do think he makes me laugh enough, and the fact that his last fucking line is just Rosebud. Like, it's so stupid, but I love it.
It's just as like and like one rewrite, and it's like there's disparate bits of like a character there, but you never really get this sense of like, is he an idiot? Is he what's quite, because he makes jokes which are like, oh, he's a bit dim-witted, he's a bit on Cortez's level, and Cortez feeds him the plot, and like it's a stable time loop where Cortez, by trying to stop this guy, starts everything, and then da-da-da-da-da. But it's like, how stupid is he? Because he does the grandpa bit, and he's a little bit naive and wet behind the ears, but it just needs a little bit more to like really solidify what his deal is beyond he's kind of dumb and he wants immortality.
Yes.
And they never really explain why he wants to live forever, I guess, other than just the appeal of, I don't have to die.
Yeah.
He's a villain.
He's willing to become a giant slug mech to do it.
He's willing to turn into a Doom-free enemy in order to live forever. Well, they cut his hands off? Like, his hands are just metal nubs.
Why are they nubs? How does that help you, bro? What are you doing there? I mean, I guess he's got enough things on the back half of him that they could probably function as hands, but
it is a cool design though. It feels very like kind of,
I also do feel like that is the one boss fight, just to ring the boss fight bell one more time, I think that's the one boss fight that isn't completely terrible.
Oh, the one where you fight him in the mansion, which is under the ground?
No, the one where just the second to last one and the last one where he's got weak points around him.
You have to disable his points. It's funny, that one bugged for me. We're jumping ahead to the final boss, but it just wigged out, and like the first half took ages because like it wouldn't trigger, and then the second half I shoot all of them and he's like not stopping, and then he stops, and like basically the game is you shoot all of his weapons, they break, and then his weak point opens up on his back. But there's like 5 Cortezes stun locking him to death, so the second phase was just over instantly.
Oh damn!
I just kind of, this is a room full of Cortez just shooting an old man in the arse until he dies.
God.
6 Vin Diesel just unloading on this poor mech.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that I don't want to go back to talking about the story because there's not really enough to pull out anymore. Apart from,
do you want me to just quickly just speed run the plots? Should we just quickly speed run and then we'll talk about whatever we want?
Yeah, so, I mean, all I want to mention from the eugenics level, which we've already said is like a perfect dark, spy-fi, secret lab kind of thing. It's just, there's one joke at the end which I really, like, which is just, there's like a robot next to him and he goes, Cortez, does that look familiar? Oh yeah, it's a robot from 200 years ago, who cares? And it's like, yeah, but you're 400 years ago, Cortez, and it's like, oh yeah, let's go 200 years in the future.
I do like Cortez like brain jacking that robot. I like the robot.
Yeah,
character.
that's neat. It's cute.
Like, genuinely, I think Captain Ash just like, because I remember playing through it and I was like, oh, Captain Ash is annoying. All the companions are going to be annoying, and then never being annoyed again by like any of them.
Even when the robot turns into the evil robot from Knights of the Old Republic and just wants to shoot brainy people.
Your mama was a trash compactor.
Yeah.
It's just stupid little one-liners, man.
It's good. And it's funny because the future section starts off feeling like Terminator, which makes sense because for some reason the time travel rules of TimeSplitters also seems to be Terminator. They can't.
It always ends,
Yeah, they can't send like a bomb back in time, or they can't send back vehicles, but they can seem to send people back in time and this robot for some reason, but whatever.
You know what? That's actually my favorite kind of weird story lore thing, because there are levels about this in TimeSplitters 2 where you go to the robot factory and there's allusions to the robot war. And there's I kind of love that just at some point in humanity's history, there's just a fucking robot war, and it's not actually that important. It's just like it's just something that happened.
And,
One of the
and
more
there was a,
incidental wars.
and there was a robot war that happened long after we had a retro future, like meeting with aliens and having a war with them. And then suddenly we decided, no, we're going to have a lot more of a gritty and grounded war after that with robots.
You'd think the robots would come before the aliens.
You
just
would
logically.
We sorted out the alien problem, then we decided to make our own.
But yeah, Robot Factory level's good. It's better than the Robot Factory level in 2, but
Oh,
that's not
Christ,
too
yeah.
hard, I guess.
There's nothing
Yeah.
in this series that's as bad as, outside of some really bullshit arcade league stuff, as bad as the fucking Robot Factory.
I distinctly remember the Robot Factory from TS2. I just remember being mad.
Yeah, it's just
remember the
it's just a
feeling.
rage-inducing level.
God.
It's just horrible.
but yeah, you
hey,
finish...
They bring
sorry,
back
go
the
ahead.
sci-fi pistol, and the bullets don't bounce anymore. Which, unless you want them to,
Yeah,
unless you want,
you can turn that feature off, which is really nice.
yeah. So that's good.
It has the weapon selector from Half-Life 2. That's something that they took from
Yeah. The more you guys are pointing this stuff out, the more I'm just realizing that this game is just 6 other games. but six other games thrown into a blender of insanity. Basically.
Maybe that's why like it looked like it was going to be a video game parody in the trailers, because it was like, we've done the films, we've done our own story, and then TimeSplitters 4 is going on to that. It's like, video games have landed, now we're going to be the video game pastiche.
Yeah.
Come out. Maybe it would have been in the
Maybe.
perfect position, because it was just Halo had come out, that was a big event. TimeSplitters 4, maybe that's what this fucking podcast is going to be now. It's just-
TimeSplitters 4 would be rubbish if it was like parodying the FPS games of that time, or like the shooters of that time, because you literally only had World War II or sci-fi. So the thing that I initially complained about this being like, you only have the 1960s, then the sci-fi stuff. That's basically that, but like made even worse, because you only have...
I get what you mean, yeah, it might have been in popular terms. I don't know, you've got, if it's parodying, if it wants to be a Half-Life thing, you have, Half-Life is 1999, 1998.
like in a factory, I guess, or
Yeah.
something.
And
Or
then
at
you have
Science
Doom,
Lab.
and that, you have Doom, and you have Quake, and you have all that, and you can go a lot of
Ooh,
places.
Assassin's Creed would be good. Like, imagine going back to like the Renaissance, but you have guns.
Oh, yeah.
Damn, that'd be sick.
There you go.
Yeah.
You could have a
There
lot
you
of
go.
parodies about assassins. I can imagine Cortez cracking off a few jokes about the assassins.
Oh, what if like enemies are like hopping out of like bales of straw, and they're
Bro,
just like,
okay. Now we're getting into a thing where me being a huge fan of TimeSplitters, on my phone right now, I have a note written probably about 8 years ago of my whole version of TimeSplitters 4.
Oh,
oh wow,
sweet.
okay.
Okay.
I have a whole. I'm sure you guys could pitch various things, but that's two different things. We don't got to talk about my fake version of TimeSplitters 4, but there.
I think we
the fact
do
that there
now.
is.
We
the fact that
might
there
have
is
to.
one, It's going to have. It's going. TimeSplitters 4 is going to exist. Like, it's happening. Like David Ellis, the Doak Ellis, the fucking all these people. They've been
So-
brought back.
We did talk about this on, I think, the TS2 episode, but yeah, so Embrace the Group have reformed Free Radical and put Doak and Ellis like back in charge, and they have said TimeSplitters 4 is what is next. So
That is like, and just that's so. I like just aside from the fact that I'm so excited to see the series back. I hope it's good. I hope it lands. I hope it whatever. But I have never in my whole life seen in this industry a studio get shuttered completely,
and then
and then come back from the grave with the exact same name and the exact same people. Has that ever happened?
no,
It's a big stroke of luck, and I don't recall it anywhere else. There'll probably be
It's
comments.
just insane. It's like so amazing that this is happening, and I'm just so, I feel so blessed that like this is like my favorite series and it's happening
yeah.
to me.
it's funny because the question would be like, where did they go? Like, do you build on what 3 did, or do you kind of like remake 2 but bigger? Like, it's it's a lot of there's a lot of juice. There's a lot of places they could go with it. You know.
Have you guys seen the original concept art and footage for?
Yeah,
4?
so there's Joe Beth Cassidy like dressed as a nun with a chainsaw, and so it was going
And
to be like a level where
did
you go
see
through.
the Wild West level, like
No, what was that?
it was like Wild West but combined with the future. It was like
This is what I want to. Okay, All right, Snake, quick, get it. All right, Paul, give us the plot really quickly because I want to get to the. You got to.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, we're going on long. I know these episodes are like an hour.
We're gonna run
That's
through
fine,
it,
that's
and we
fine,
can be
that's
free
fine.
to talk about whatever we want. So, Cortez just got off his mission with the fucking time crystals. Goes back to base. Gets told, "Oh, we found a way to track residue of where these crystals been used. We can send you back." So he hasn't even had time to sit down, but he doesn't give a shit. He's fucking Cortez. He's out there. He's going.
He's good to go.
He goes back to 1924. He meets Captain Ash. They raid this island, and then in a room underneath the island, but not very much underneath the island, he finds this old man. And when he spots him, he's like, "Ah, shit!" And he time warps out of there. And Cortez is like, "Whoa, where did he go?" Find a picture. Goes to 1969, following him. Meets Harry Tipper. And Harry Tipper is meeting with Kalos, who is this other side character who's Harry Tipper's arch rival because, God, there's a lot going on in this universe.
But that was all established in TS1 and TS2, so it's fine. It's all good.
From there, we unravel that plan. We stop the world from getting nuked, and we head to the mansion level, which we've been kind of on for ages, which is 1994.
You find another
Casey.
picture of Kalos meeting younger Kalos, and it says 1990 or something like that.
Crow meeting Kalos, but
Crow meeting Kalos. Yeah.
We go to the mansion, we raid that, we go to the basement, we find out about his weird zombie experiments, which you point out, that's the earliest iteration of TimeSplitters. It's all coming together. We go out, we escape the mansion as it explodes. Outside, Crow is a young Crow who we're trying to intercept is met by his older self who tells him the plan. Hey, have this, I spent my whole life making this, use it. And from there, you go into 2052, and you get engaged in a bit of cyberpunk kind of corporate warfare with a character called Amy Chen. This level is kind of the robot level. It's a bit more hackery. You've got a few stealth mechanics, and you go into the basement again.
They're doing illegal experiments.
Yep, they're doing illegal experiments. And this leads to you going forward into the robot wars.
Yes.
And you go through this Terminator future, you break into a building, you go into a basement, and you find TimeSplitters. Tons of TimeSplitters in tubes.
Millions of TimeSplitters.
Yep. And I can't remember if it's at this point that you give him the plot. You kind of you meet Crow.
No, you give him the plot in the eugenics level.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of... Okay, right. So I've skipped ahead a bit.
That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's all good.
You give him Cortez confronts him. He doesn't quite know what's going on, and Cortez says, "Well, you're going to do all this stuff," and he's like, "Huh, that's a good idea." And then
his younger self turns up at the time, and he goes, "No, you don't have to tell me." And then they walk away.
Yeah, he knows everything. It's very, very good. And then I can't exactly remember why, but Cortez pieces together what's actually going on was back in 1924 on that island beneath it. You go back there and you take a submarine, and you've got your robot buddy with you now, and you go deep down in a submarine into this hidden city, and then you're going through there, and you run into a meeting with Crow as one of his cronies saying, "Hey, go kill Cortez. He's going to stop us," with a big picture of fucking Mr. Universe Cortez.
Mr. Space, yeah.
I just want to say, I'm really offended that I was never able to play as Mr. Universe Banana Hammock Cortez.
Oh, that would have been so good. That should be the 100% unlock is...
Yeah.
God. Hey, here's your reward for 100%. It's fucking Mr. Universe Cortez. Then you get a level which I remembered this being so much cooler in my head as a kid. At the beginning of the game, after you complete the level and you go into the human resistance base, it cuts to a shot of a hooded figure with Cortez's eyes, and you instantly go, "That's fucking Cortez." There's no twist.
This could be nobody else.
Yeah. But then you play the first level again, but you're defending yourself, and it's kind of shit. You're giving
it's a cool idea in concept, but it's not. There's a lot of bits which aren't super fun to engage with.
I remember it being cool as a kid, but I kind of played it. It's so weird. It kind of comes out of nowhere. Cortez kind of goes down there, and he's like, "Oh, they're going to kill me." And then he just kind of goes forward, makes sure that doesn't happen, and comes back. It feels so weirdly okay, all right.
We set this up, we have to do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then that's level 13, Future Perfect, 1924, and you go and you stop Kalos, and there's a really funny shot. I just really love this, so you stop Kalos, the TimeSplitters are eradicated, the future is perfect. there's no grammatical errors in this future whatsoever. And
No, it's so fine.
you're all in the human base, and everyone is like stood in front of this window and like, we did it, we saved the world. And then they all turn and look out the window, and there's a big 5-second delay before it changes, and it goes from like a desert wasteland to a big lush forest. And everyone's like, good work, Cortez. And he's like, yeah, I did it.
So I want to say a fun fact about that. That wasn't so the Jacob Crow boss fight right at the end, and that wasn't originally in the game. EA asked them to add that, and the reason was because we might want to do a TimeSplitters 4, so leave things open.
That didn't feel very open.
No, because it feels like a definitive end to TimeSplitters.
So wait. What do you mean by that? Because what you're describing, the ending feels very definitive. What did EA ask to put in to?
So they said because the original ending was it wasn't going to be fighting Jacob Crow. It was going to be fighting wave after wave of TimeSplitters in the style of like the end of Halo Reach, where you're just like constantly like trying to stay alive. And then originally, I think it was going to be like, well, that's it. That's all the TimeSplitters eliminated. We're done. The TimeSplitter stuff is still kind of left up in the air at the end of TimeSplitters, right? Apart from Jacob Crow is dead.
It's funny. I haven't read all this. I meant to. If there's one thing I really regret for this episode, it's so there's this, which is an early. I linked it in the Riverside
is it the
chat.
plots? Yeah, is the early version of the plot.
This is an early version of the TimeSplitters 3 story framework. So,
What?
Yeah, dates are a little bit different for the episodes. I think this isn't the Wild West. This is when they had everything locked in.
Yes.
But they hadn't specified all the details.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
So Jacob Crow barely isn't really much of it. Like that was like a very late addition, which I think was like a dope idea. There's none of the Cortez hopping back in time and helping himself stuff. That was really late as well. Mostly what's locked in is that they knew the kind of time periods they wanted to go to. Oh yeah, the intro stuff with him, in the orange wars and stuff. None of that is in the game, like in the story treatment. It's really interesting. It's like really neat like how much changed.
Yeah, thank you for sending me that. I really want to read through this. This is super cool.
I'm gonna kind of spoil the ending though, because it's funny you're saying EA demanded because we want this to be open ended, we want ability for a TimeSplitters 4, but let me just fucking read the ending of this. Concluding cutscene. The cutscene begins with Cortez arriving back in the sub-pen of the castle. He uses uplink to tell Anya to get him home. She opens a portal for him and he leaps through it, arriving back at the Freedom Fighters HQ in 2401. Anya and the General are there, along with a number of soldiers defending the base, as well as they possibly can from TimeSplitters. Many soldiers are dying. Cortez joins in this fight, shooting as many creatures as possible. He glances down at the timer on his uplink, which is set to count down to the moments until the mining site explodes. There are only seconds left. He is shot, yet carries on fighting. Suddenly the action pauses and the screen fades to a brilliant white. An explosion sound is heard from Nemo, maybe with a shot of the mining site blowing up. By destroying the crystals, the war with the TimeSplitters has stopped before it even began, as Crow made the TimeSplitters using the time crystals, and both threats have now been eliminated. Ripples could show the war-torn areas becoming areas of greenery with no signs of conflict. Cortez, Anya, and the General are then shown living totally different lives, free of war. Maybe the former pair could be kissing in a jungle, GoldenEye style. Then, post-credits cutscene. Finally, after the credits have rolled, a very brief cutscene could begin, which starts by scrolling through the TimeSplitter lab from the Ultranet HQ in 2401. This is an element that isn't quite there anymore. Inside the lab could be a large glass tube, or maybe a number of large glass tubes, holding the final TimeSplitter creatures created by Crow before he was killed. Many of these will be dead following Cortez's conflict with them. However, one could still be alive. This cutscene could finish with the text, "TimeSplitters will return."
Man.
And that's funny because both TimeSplitters 1 and 2 end in the credits with "TimeSplitters will return." Not with a question mark, definitive. This one would be "TimeSplitters will return?" and obviously early draft, but yeah, it's very funny because I even remember talking to you, James, is like, I wonder if the credits will do "TimeSplitters will return," and
they didn't.
Yeah.
Actually, I did misread that, but it's good that we went on that. Yeah, EA said cut. No, actually, EA did say to cut that because they weren't sure if they wanted to do a 4 depending on the sales.
So they were the opposite. They were like, make
yeah,
it
they said cut that because we don't know how the sales are going to pan out. Yeah.
Oh,
Damn.
the ones who fucked them.
Just to briefly mention the credits. So it is Cortez dancing on his own in a disco, which feels it feels like there should be hundreds of characters in there, and I was wondering.
That was the exact fucking thing. I was like, the first 5 seconds, I was like, this is awesome, this is hilarious, and then it was like, this is very lonely.
Yeah. and the way that the
Cortez's
camera is
friends.
placed is that it looks like it's trying to show like crowds of people, but it's just him on his own. So again, I was like, oh, do you have to like unlock those? But I figured that out. Playing this game through Dolphin at 1080p. They have photoshopped Graham Norgate onto a black guy with an afro, which is they photoshopped black-faced Graham Norgate.
What?
Yeah. You.
What?
Yeah. That's that black guy on the cover of the album sleeve. That is
Graham
blackface Graham Norgate.
Oh my gosh!
This is why I said they did him dirty after all the great music that he composed. They photoshopped him as a black guy. I mean, it has to be. It won't be the upload image for this, but it'll be on the Twitter post. But it will have to be posted there. People will need to be held accountable for what they have done.
There's one person out there that Graham Norgate is mad as fuck about. Or he's about to be.
Yeah, when this episode gets up, I'll get quote tweeted by him being just like the fucking wokies are trying to cancel.
I have been fired from the new Free Radical.
I don't think it was him. I mean, that would imply that he did it to himself.
I was about to say, God, do you think this is Fox it? Like, now that I've mentioned this, they're not going to make any more TimeSplitters games.
All right,
because,
we gotta cut all this.
Oh, fuck.
You did it.
Shit.
You have to cut it. Cut the show. Cut the show.
Cut the flicks. Cut the flicks.
I don't want to say the sentence, but now I have to say it because it's very two best friends play podcast title. We have to ignore blackface to get TimeSplitters 4.
I'll put that quote somewhere. I'll put it on there.
Just throw that one out of context. That'll get people like, what the hell did he mean by this?
I'm learning so much new stuff about TimeSplitters.
I just want to quickly mention though, because just right at the end of the game, and just that little bit, which is the thing that you mentioned earlier, the fact that they were doing the Wild West, but it was with sci-fi elements. I really love the final level of this game because, again, I mentioned the fact that it's Terminator rules, which means that they can't bring back like actual technology. All they can kind of bring back is people. So what they've essentially done is like, let's bring back future knowledge of how to make robots and stuff like that, and then just try and build it out of old-fashioned tech. So when you mentioned the submachine gun earlier that had like tubes and stuff on it, like it's steampunk, but it's like done in a really cool. And there's a lot like your robot buddy says, "Oh, it's one of my ancestors." When you meet one of like the old and it's like BioShock, but like 4 years or 2 years before BioShock came out. It's like this is so neat, and it's like if they ever made another TimeSplitters, because they've done like defined time periods now. Like maybe they should do more. Like go places that they didn't like.
Oh yeah,
Stone Age would be cool. Renaissance would be cool.
The options are fucking limitless.
Yeah,
but if they start doing time blended stuff, that'd be dope. Like yeah. So,
and I mean, the Planet X mission is like, you know, very much in 2 is very much like fake. There's no real reference for that, and so like it's
exactly.
From what I've seen from TimeSplitters 4, it does seem like they were just getting really broad and creative and strange.
Yeah.
And I so hope that's what they do, man. I hope it's good. I hope the new one is good. They better bring back Tom Clark Hill.
Spirit, like I think all of us, we want to pick up TimeSplitters 4 and we want to feel like no time has passed.
Yes.
It's like it's still there. Like this is picking up where it left off.
Mm-hmm. But it's gonna be like, and that's a big thing to ask though. I'm gonna go in. I'm probably gonna watch like the reveal trailer, and I'm going to cry like a baby, and then I'm not gonna watch anything else. I'm not gonna watch any other footage.
That is the best way to go into it. Yeah, just see what happens, see where it lies, and just hope that it does well. And actually, like years on, everyone kind of realized this game was great. I'm gonna bet on this new one being great. I don't even know what to say to it because that is to me the weird tragedy of this series, which is one, kind of a beta. It's not really too. They didn't really get too screwed. They were following the rules. They had to make a release like it had to be. Console came out, game was here with it,
and they knew what they wanted to focus on. It. What they wanted the multiplayer was the most important thing for them, and they wanted bots and they wanted the map maker. Single player was kind of like an afterthought, but they had to do it. You know?
Yeah, TimeSplitters 2, brilliant game. As you said, not enough copies. Eidos just didn't know what they had, didn't know what to do with it, and then Future Perfect. They got just ruined by GoldenEye, like a specter of their past. Kind of came out of the woodwork, and EA went, "Yeah, we're going on the James Bond money," and James Bond was just shit for years, just absolutely terrible games. They never they had GoldenEye, and then Nightfire was good, and
I like Nightfire.
Agent on Fire. But
it's funny, like with the James Bond games, it's like up and down, because right after 007 GoldenEye, they did The World Is Not Enough for the N64, and it's like they're trying to do Deus Ex on the N64, but it just does. They haven't got enough buttons, they haven't got enough RAM. It just doesn't work. Nightfire is great. Agent Under Fire is great. Everything or Nothing is great. Yeah. Quantum of Solace is okay. Is how
it's very C minus.
It's a C minus.
Was one of them called Everything or Nothing, or am I remembering wrong?
Yeah, Everything or Nothing is the last EA one.
There's a GameCube one, right, too.
Yeah, sorry, it's not the last EA one, because they also did From Russia With Love. They got fucking Sean Connery out of the old folks' home to record audio for that game.
It's always the one I always saw footage for it. That was a third-person one, right?
Yeah,
that's right, and it's made by the Dead Space guys. So, before they made... Well, of course, so the Dead Space guys, they just did nothing but, movie license games until they did Dead Space. So that's
Visceral.
Visceral, sorry. Yeah. They used to be Redwood, and they did all the Lord of the Rings games and the Godfather game.
Hey, I have a soft spot for those fucking weird Godfather games.
Yeah.
The Godfather 1 was a genuinely good sandbox.
It's decent.
Yeah, I remember I played Godfather 1 on the Wii. It's a very different experience on the Wii.
I had Godfather 1 on Xbox 360. You want to know the weirdest thing? And I might have said this before on the podcast. You want to know the weirdest goddamn thing about Godfather 1 on the Xbox 360? That is the first time I have ever seen microtransactions for in-game currency in a game.
Really?
You could exchange Xbox Live points for in-game money. That was
what was the conversion rate like?
Shit, not terrible. I remember looking at that, and I must have been 12, 13, maybe a bit older, definitely older. But I thought, that's a rip-off, that's dumb, this will never catch on.
I've heard it's coming back. I've heard it's coming back as a crypto alternative.
Oh, that'd be a good racket.
Now that FTX is down, people are actually they're converting their money into Godfather points, whatever it's called. What are the Godfather money called?
Well, I'll tell you this: the in-game currency in the Godfather game is US dollars.
Oh, so it's But do they all have like Michael Corleone's face on them?
I'm gonna say, James, I think you're overestimating here. There was no multiplayer component. I'm talking just in-game money that you could get for doing the activities.
Yeah, it's like if you just want to buy a house quicker in fucking Godfather, you could use your own money. Oh, it really is like crypto and metaverse stuff, isn't it? Amazing.
Yeah, maybe those guys were ahead of their fucking time. I don't know.
They really were. Is there any last notes about TimeSplitters? I would just say, Charlie, you have turned me around on this game in regards to. No, this is actually pretty good. I still like TimeSplitters 2 more, but now this game is really good at what it does. It's just that there is so much more to it that not everything lands the same as TS2 does, but that's just kind of personal taste, I think. And the fact that I had played games like Future Perfect before, because, it has a campaign kind of more like Halo, it has Half-Life 2 stuff. TS2 I had never played before, and it is such its own thing, but this is really good at what it does. This is excellent. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, and I do not begrudge anybody for preferring TimeSplitters 2 over TimeSplitters 3, because like you said, I think it is the tighter experience. It's it's throwing less at the wall. But I admire TimeSplitters Future Perfect just so much for everything that it put in it. It's so fucking ambitious. You even look at it now today. There is no game that's come out in the last 5 years that I can think that is $50 that has the amount of content that this game has. I cannot think of almost like any other game that it has that gives you what this game gives you. And on top of just that, bang for your buck, I just think I love the story, I love the characters, I love the world, I love the irreverence, I love the tone. Just everything about it just lines up with me, and I think despite the fact that playing through it again, I can see its age, and I can definitely see that there are levels that make you want to die. But it's even with that age, I think it still holds up as one of the greats for me personally.
I'm gonna reiterate what we said because it's funny everything that James went, I like TS2 more than Future Perfect. It's purely relative because you also said, and I also agree with this, if this was any other series, this would be the best entry in it.
Oh, yeah.
But you put it next to this other game that I love, and it's there's something not quite there. And I came in with childhood memories, and where I had 2, you had Future Perfect, Charlie, so we had kind of the opposite ends of it. And I just remember thinking, Future Perfect was great. I didn't play it as much, but playing it right after 2 and then clicking and it's oh yeah, I see what James is getting at here. It's just there's a little something. It's you put a little less kind of spice into something. And you just kind of notice there's a little less kick. But
it's different mixtures of all the spices.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
both of the soups are really tasty, but someone's gonna prefer the other one over the other.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
And it's one of those things that is a game worse for having a gravity gun equivalent in it that you don't use that much, when it works absolutely fine, and when you do use it, you get a lot more opportunities out of it. So, the vehicles are
a lot of what you earn from this game is what you take out of it. You gotta explore it.
Exactly.
And genuinely, I think the same thing that's kind of true for TimeSplitters 2 is true for Future Perfect, and it's exactly what it needs to be is you give this to a group of kids, they could be playing it for years. And they would not get bored, and they would have more to do, and they'd have you could be sitting in your room on your own. It's I could still play TimeSplitters 2 because there's challenges, there's single player. It's it is we have got the whole PC gaming market, but in a bundle on console, and it's everything you need it to be.
And at this 100%. Point, what's our nearest, the nearest equivalent to something like this is Fortnite.
It's probably Fortnite, and we didn't even talk about this. Maybe you talked about it on TimeSplitters 2 or 1, but I don't think Fortnite would exist without TimeSplitters.
David Doak himself has said that. He has done interviews where he said we there's Epic weren't making games like TimeSplitters when they were working on Unreal, but that's not to say that we didn't lower the. We didn't make the opportunity that you can have a game which is made out of so much stuff. It's great.
It's genuinely a case of, ironically, for a time-traveling series, they were before their time in a lot of ways. They were not in the right place or time to be appreciated for what they were. And that's why playing these games made me a bit more of a goddamn boomer, because I'm
And that's why I'm so depressed about the game that we will be talking about next episode, because it is so... This game and 2 and Second Sight and 1 feel like games of such passion in regards to we want to do as much as we can on consoles and stuff, and Haze feels like fuck.
Haze is generation kill for idiots.
You can just stop there. Haze just feels like fuck.
Haze just feels like we're done. We'll just make games now.
I think, alright, I should save this for the Haze episode, but I think right now, Haze is generation kill me please.
I'm saving that.
Haze is Starship Troopers, but it's as depressingly as the Starship Troopers that you have to be part of. Charlie, it's been lovely having you on the podcast, but this has now become the longest episode of Bullet Time, and you are a man with places to be. So, me and Snake will unfortunately means that you'll be missing out on the quiz, but it's fine.
It's 5 free points for me in this thing that doesn't have a leaderboard.
Exactly. But before you go, it's been a pleasure having you. You have to tell the people at home, anything you want to promote, anything you want to point them towards. I guess.
Just check out Purposeless Rabbitholes YouTube channel. I have put out 2 videos this year. I haven't done shit, but one of them's long and one of them's all right. So if you got a chance, check out the Dying Light video I made this year. about Dying Light 2 or the session video that I put out in like 2 months ago?
Session video is very good, and I'm not just saying that because I made the thumbnail for it.
Yes,
so.
and it was a fucking wonderful thumbnail, dude. I just like asked you, I gave you this really abstract idea, and then fucking 10 minutes later, boom! It's like, what?
Boom.
You totally got it.
There you go. Good stuff.
He has a magic power, I fucking swear.
He does.
If only I could apply that to podcasting. We'll see.
You're getting there, man. This is good.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, this is good. Well, Charlie, lovely chatting to you, and we'll have you back very soon, I imagine.
Sounds good. Later, guys.
See you,
Later.
mate. Bye.
Thanks, man.
But okay, it's time for me to suffer alone.
Yeah, so Snake, you know what? Because Charlie isn't here, I'm going to ask you double the amount then to make up.
What sense
for it.
does that make? You're just making this a longer. All right, time for me to sound like a twat for twice as long. Let's make everyone angry as hell.
So,
I'm gonna guess that number 1 is Future Perfect. I'm gonna guess it debuted strong.
this game qualified for the charts on the 26th of March 2005. TimeSplitters Future Perfect debuted at number 4.
Huh. Never mind. I'm wrong.
I will say this much as well, which we didn't really dip into too much on the episode. And again, the subtitle of this, the slogan for this podcast is "The Shooters That Missed Their Mark." This is an incredible game, but EA did not, as we said, EA did not advertise it very well, and so people did
Was
not
number
know.
1 GoldenEye Rogue Agent?
You'll be glad to know that GoldenEye Rogue Agent did not make the list. Granted, I don't know when it came out in 2005, but it's not on the list.
Yeah.
at the
Okay.
moment.
Oh yeah, they weren't direct competitors. Never mind.
No, it was just that EA had like 15 FPS games coming out that year. This is the fucking
God.
Black comes out the year afterwards, doesn't it? It's never mind. But really early.
It keeps going. It keeps going.
He's going, folks. But number 1 in the charts at one place is an EA game. It is an EA sports game, and it is an EA sports game of a short-lived side spin-off series of games that I actually think are quite neat. I think you quite like these games as well.
Is it NBA Street?
It's something Street.
Is it FIFA Street?
It is FIFA Streets.
Okay, yeah. There was that or NFL. Which FIFA was it? FIFA Street 1?
Yeah, it's just
or 2?
it's just FIFA Street 1. So
Okay, yeah. I remember 3 was really dog shit, but I actually quite liked FIFA Street 1. It was decently fun, and then gradually became a lot worse as the controls got very, very slippery and the passion dived.
yeah, and it's a shame because it's like just tied to what it's like NBA Jam. It's just smaller and wilder, which
I generally find I'm not much of a sports guy, but the more you kind of strip down a sport, I actually tend to like it more. And street football and like street basketball is generally a lot more. It's like same reason I talked to a friend once, like I'd love to go to a baseball game, and they said go to amateur league.
yeah.
Like don't go to major league, go little league, go not little league, but go to like a game that's actually got some like passion and like sense of a day out about it.
Yeah, I think like especially the big sport like EA Sports FC now. It's just so many details and numbers to it as well, which I quite liked. Behold the Kickmen, which was made as a joke, but it is like a really fun and simple.
I liked Behold the Kickman. That was funny.
Yeah. Number 2 on the list, down one place from last week. It is a Sony exclusive racing game.
Ooh, Trixie. Sony exclusive racing game. Is this a sim or is this arcade?
It's very much a sim.
Okay, what was going on at the time?
It is the most
exclusive.
simmy of them, I would say.
Is it an F1?
It is not an F1, no.
God. Is it Gran Turismo?
But which one?
Gran Turismo 4.
It is Gran Turismo 4. Some would
Yes.
argue the last good Gran Turismo game.
Yeah, I only played 3. Really liked 3 though.
Yeah, no, free A-Specs, pretty cool. Remember that.
Yeah.
4's really 4 has like you can run it in 1080i if you like set it up properly. Which is quite neat.
We talked about parents earlier. I actually have the story of me being the worst child now.
Okay.
I actually genuinely regret this, and I think my mother is like within earshot as I say. I remember a Gran Turismo story, which was I remember making her grind money for me once in Gran Turismo, like running an early race because I wanted to buy a Lotus.
Mom, can you unlock this
such a
Lotus
shit
Elite for
child.
me? I'm going to school. Bye.
That's such a shit child thing to do. I feel really bad about that.
That's really funny. I like
Poor
that.
mum just running the same race over and over again.
God.
Oh no. Oh, I feel bad.
The shittiest thing I've ever done games-wise for my parents was that I didn't force her, but I didn't even emotionally manipulate it, but I was very upset that I got my mum to buy me Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 because I had borrowed a friend's version, installed it on my PC, and then with my own pocket money bought one of the expansions thinking, oh, well, I don't need the original disc anymore. I'll just run it off the expansion disc the way that the Sims games used to work.
Oh, yeah.
Not this one. You had to have the original disc, Andy.
Oh, Christ.
And I was so upset. I told my mum, and she was like, well, how much is it? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I think it was, I don't know. I want to hope it was a 20 quid because it wasn't a new game at that point.
There's nowhere near as bad, but like I had a friend, like we only met on holidays, like in the countryside, and like, oh, we should play more games together. And I was like, oh, I really like Team Fortress 2. I really like Half-Life. And I was like, and I saw it in a second-hand shop, and I was like, I'll get you this copy of thing, and we'll play online together. And I got in, like, holiday ends, he gets back, he tries to install it on his PC. This was the early days of Steam, and I didn't put together, code was already used. Why the fuck is that in a second-hand shop?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Like, it was discs, but you had the code on the back, and, like, you plugged it in, it's like, oh, no, can't use this copy.
So fucking bad. You know, that I've just realized that, you know, Game and Game Station, you couldn't trade in PC games. I just realized that's probably fucking why.
There was that early rash of like this mid 2000s thing where I remember it particularly with Mass Effect. They wouldn't let you sell certain games in because they had like specialized codes, which they wanted to crack down on the second-hand market, which was you can only buy this once. You get a code for these bonuses because the gaming industries have always hated the second-hand market.
Oh yeah. Any opportunity they can use to make a sale, which, hey, encourage that rather than just disincentivizing people from doing it. Number 3 in the charts is a non-mover. It is an FPS game from Gearbox.
Brothers in Arms?
But which one?
Road to Hill 40.
It is, yeah, I'll give you that. Brothers in Arms Road to Hill 30.
How did I fucking...
Because it's like Gearbox FPS game that came out before Borderlands.
Yeah, true. I just somehow remember. I remember because I mean, part of why I hate fucking Borderlands so much is that began as a
Brothers in Arms game.
Yeah, and then people hated the reveal trailer, and then it kind of mutated.
Yeah, and because it was like sci-fi and it had like a realistic art style, people were like, this is boring as shit. And they went, put the cell shading button on then. And it's like, oh, great,
fucking
thanks,
hate Borderlands to an unreasonable degree, but
yeah, we sure do hate it. It's actually kind of funny that Charlie is gone because I got a really good one coming up. Number 4 is obviously TimeSplitters Future Perfect. Number 5 is new this week. A game so cringeworthy that I struggled to make a thumbnail for it for a particular
Devil
YouTuber.
May Cry Free.
What is the subtitle?
Dante's Awakening?
Yeah, Devil May Cry Free, Dante's Awakening.
How the fuck did I remember its subtitle? I've never thought of its subtitle before.
It's because you're such a big fan of Devil May Cry 3.
My brain is a mess of half-remembered things that I surprise myself with. But yeah, Devil May Cry 3, Dante's Awakening. I really do like the Devil May Cry games. James very much does not. He finds Dante cringe. I think that's very cringe of him, but, you know...
I personally think that it's very funny and it makes me more interested.
I am curious. I don't know what level of ironic cringe you're on with Dante. It seems to fluctuate.
My opinion is that the Devil May Cry games, I've played 1 or 2 of them, not my bag, just because I'm not really into them that much.
I think it's the same thing I'm having with Avatar right now, where I'm not a fan of Avatar, but because it's in the thing again, I am playing up my distaste for it. Meanwhile, you're in amongst video essayists, so you're hearing about Devil May Cry, you're not a fan, and now you have to play up your distaste.
Do you know what's funny is that the only reason that I'm playing up the opposite side of the Avatar stuff is because I've seen so many people play up that side of it, so I'm just like on triple levels of irony now. That being said, I too quite like James Cameron as a director, so there we go.
I'm in this weird position now where one of the Discords we're in, it's like, oh, the white savior stuff and everything. And I stopped myself earlier today from typing, all these people going on at white savior stuff are missing the obvious problem. It's just very boring.
Oh.
And I was like, I shouldn't say that. There's no good result.
Don't get involved.
And now I've said it on a podcast instead.
I know. A podcast that will be out long after Avatar The Way of Water comes out and makes $4 billion at the box office. So.
I mean, yeah, but it doesn't count when it's from idiots. God damn it. I started that sentence and didn't know where it would end.
By the way, if you're somebody who enjoyed Avatar The Way of Water and is listening to this podcast, feel free to leave us a 5-star review and tell Snake for calling you an idiot. I know I will.
It's more than 5 stars. It's what we deserve, and Avatar doesn't. This movie I probably won't watch.
You know what? I am not going to disagree with you with that. If this podcast could also make $4 billion, I'm not going to say, Avatar deserved it more. So, number 6.
I only take money from very smart people. So if you give me money.
Well, the problem is if I get money from very smart people, they'll start telling me how to improve my podcast. So I'm not going to do that. So.
This is a horrible segment. What are we doing?
Number 6 on the charts this week, up from 10, is a sports game, a ball sport.
A ball sport?
A sport with a ball in it.
Is it, okay, which limb do you use to manipulate the ball? Actually, that would make it way too easy.
Yeah, that would make it a bit too easy. It's not a ball shape, but it is a ball sport.
Oh, is it NFL?
It's not NFL, but it's the game that...
Is it rugby?
It is Rugby 2005.
I think my favourite rugby game, and I see it in CX all the time, there's no year, there's just a game called Rugby.
I mean,
not
it's
Rugby
timeless.
2005, just...
Timeless game.
This is rugby, baby.
And it's cool. You can just put that disc into any console and it'll just work because it's just rugby.
Like, you want some rugby? Here you go.
Yeah, there you go. There's some rugby there. Oh, I have a Nintendo DS, so don't worry. Just fold it and put it in. There you go, rugby. Got it.
Oh, rugby on the DS.
Nice. Number 7, down from number 4 last week, is a sports simulation game.
Sports simulation?
Simulation is sports game.
This came out in the beginning of 2005, so it's not... sports simulation, I'm trying to think. It's not a ball sport then, it's like a racer, I'm guessing.
No, it is a simulation game to do with ball sports.
Is it Topspin?
It is not Topspin, no. When I say simulation, I mean more in the style of like a Sid Meier style game. Lot of numbers.
Oh, is it an MLB?
It is not an MLB, no.
Is it a Football Manager?
It is a Football Manager, and I guess I'll give it to you because this is when it was known as Championship Manager 5.
Ah.
Published by Eidos. Before they went belly.
Is this separate from the Sega Football Manager?
So, they are all made by the same developer, but when Eidos went belly up and Sega brought them on, they had to change the name to Football Manager.
Seems like that would have been the easier route to begin with, but what are you going to do?
I think it's because it was originally called Football Manager on the Amiga, and then whatever studio owned that, when they got bought by Eidos, they had to call it Championship Manager. Then that company was long gone by that point, so it just became Football Manager again.
Oh, it finally returned to the roots.
Basically, yeah. I think it was also called, fucking Bobby Arsehole's, Football Manager, because it was like, it was like John Madden's football. It was, associated with a guy, to sell copies. Yeah.
It's funny you say Bobby Arsehole though, and I can't remember the name of it, so crap anecdote, but there is a funny, Amiga British computer football.
Oh, Dino Dini's football, or whatever it's called.
I'm talking about the one where, you're encouraged to be scummy and fix matches and play dirty.
Oh, and what's that called?
I can't remember. It's a Kim Justice video. So
okay.
If you look through her litany of, Football Manager videos, you'll find it, and it's man, there should be more sports games, sports manager games, where you're encouraged to be really grim.
Because I feel like the dark and gritty trend has to come back, with Shadow the Hedgehog, Warrior Within, Prince of Persia, Jack 2. I feel like having an evil version of a character has to come back. So what if EA does evil FIFA?
Oh, that'd be good. I mean, this is the worst way to put it, but I think, it's more the era of grit, and they thought that doing sports streets games was oh yeah, that's urban, that's grit.
And we've talked about this before off mic about like the era of the gangster game. Like after San Andreas, you had like 25 to Life, you had like the first Saints Row, you had like just all sorts of stuff that leaned in like both on the San Andreas like hip hop and like gangster kind of craze, which I think the street games were very much like tapping into that.
Yeah, but it's funny that there's not many manager games. Like, that was a small subgenre in the early 90s, like late 80s, early 90s. And it's funny because manager games were so ubiquitous. There were parody manager games where there's like a British builder game where you are playing like a dodgy landowner and you've got to play Mafia with your opponents and be really shit-headed to get ahead. And that subgenre has died, and now the only simulation manager games come out are very, very clean and very boring, and no one's parodying it because it just kind of exists. And I think nowadays it could be done very, very fun. I think actually the Yogscast...
Really?
A big game group, they made a game called like Builder's Super or whatever that is kind of a modern iteration of that. But that's the one, and it's made by the fucking Yogscast.
God, it's really funny because like I had written a Wordle video like earlier in the year, which might not happen because the popularity of Wordle just sort of petered out. But it was about like Wordle clones, and they had an enormous sidebar on it of like back in the 90s you had like this glut of quote parody games, like you had Pissed, like a parody of Myst and stuff like that, and it was because like the cost of development was still low enough that you could do like what were essentially just fucking hit and run jokes but like stretch them into entire games. Meanwhile, the cost of games development now is so fucking massive that like no one's going to bankroll comedy GTA.
Yeah, the last example I can think of is when Bulletstorm came out. They made a Call of Duty
Duty
parody
Calls,
demo. Yeah, Duty Calls. That's the last like big game parody I can remember. But exactly that. It's like in the early 90s, you could shoot those things out. It was still within the realm of possibility, but there's no budget Call of Duty rip.
Meanwhile, Wordle got a ton of them because Wordle is quite easy to replicate. And
I remember there was like curse word Wordle. There was
there was Sweardle and like curse Wordle was another one, and Speaking of Wordle clones, down for number 6 this week at number 8, Hideo Kojima's best ever video game, but which one is it?
Well, it's Metal Gear Solid 3.
Snake Eater, yes.
Yes. I mean, the original iteration of Snake Eater no one talks about because it had the shitty camera controls. It took till Subsistence to add the third-person camera. It's funny how me and my mates hated Snake Eater when it first came out because of the camera, and then years later played it again on Subsistence, like, oh, this is the fucking best.
And at this point, I think when people say Metal Gear Solid 3, you don't think of the original, you just think of Subsistence.
Or Metal Gear Solid 3 HD, which was built on the Subsistence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just a HD. Yeah, it's a HD upgrade of Subsistence. So.
And you got Metal Gear 1 and 2 on there, the MSX originals, not the horrible like US only Nintendo Entertainment System.
Oh, Snake's Revenge. Yeah.
Yeah, which had a book written about it, which I believe Kevin.
Yeah, they have done the Worlds of Power things of.
Yeah. So there we go. That's podcast cross-contamination.
I can't believe that you're the second co-host on this, but you promoted Pixel. That's really good.
Hey, you gotta be fair. You gotta big up your brothers.
I'm gonna make sure that Kevin promotes the TehSnakerer channel.
He doesn't have to do that. I'm massive. I'm huge. Everyone's heard of me.
That's very true. Yeah. Speaking of games that were massive and huge, number 9 down from 8 this week, a Nintendo DS launch title.
Super Mario 64.
Yeah, it is Super Mario 64 DS, a game that was gigantic and huge for the N64, and I think pretty big for the the DS was a pretty big success, like pretty much from launch. So,
how do you feel about Super Mario 64 DS?
I didn't like it for the longest time until I played an emulated version, which had like emulated analog controls in it, and
that'll do it.
It's just a better version of Super Mario 64. Like, what can you say more than that?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's good. I like the extra content. Again, I just don't particularly like playing it on a. It's weird. It's like a really cool tech demo that we can run this game on the DS, but just the control scheme is not properly right for even like using the touch screen to emulate like a control stick. It just doesn't feel right. So. And then finally at number 10, down from 7 from last week, it is an expansion pack to an EA published title.
Oh, is it a Sims expansion?
It is a Sims expansion, but which Sims game and which?
The Sims 2.
It is The Sims 2, but which expansion is it?
I don't remember any of the titles. I remember Unleashed because we bloody talked about that one.
We did. Yeah, well, that was on. Fucking. I was advertised for it, or it was the other one, second site.
The Sims. I'm. All right. Let's just throw out words and we'll zero in. Wait, hang on. Sims Have a Date.
It is not the Sims Have a Date or Like Hot Day. I'll give you a clue. It is a establishment. Something that
Sims business make money.
It's not the Sims business to make money. It's somewhere that your Sims can. What's that?
Sims open for business?
It's not Sims open for business. No, it is somewhere that your Sims can go. It's somewhere that could help your Sims start a business.
Sims University.
It is the Sims 2 University.
Yeah, I think that was the first one, but I could be wrong. I probably am. Yeah, I probably am.
It is funny. It is just such a snapshot of time in regards to like the top 10, and EA have 3. Rugby 2005 might even be an EA game, so there's like 3 or 4 EA games in the top 10.
This is when they were just mortaring games out, just fucking boom, boom, boom everywhere across the fucking field.
An unstoppable publisher. Unfortunately, it went to their head, and they thought that TimeSplitters was just a surefire thing, and let's put the money into Rogue Agent, which it's not even like a nice sentence. Like Rogue Agent also didn't sell very well, so that's
I think there was this long period of just like, I don't know what it was, because I mean I was around, but I was a kid, and I'm not a big Bond guy. But I wonder if there was just this. There was this arrogance in the fact that it's Bond, it will do well, that was just lingering from, this was the series that had GoldenEye, it will always be evergreen, and slowly realizing that you make enough bad games and no one will care.
No, and it's bizarre because it's like GoldenEye is a film tie-in, so it's just kind of like, well, shouldn't they just be tied into the films? Like, that's what... or just the brand has enough like name recognition for that, but the fact that they thought, oh, we need to call this GoldenEye, it's like... Because it's not like in conversation with GoldenEye. It's not like a subversion on it. It's just a game called GoldenEye with nothing to do with it. It's
such an odd thing. And then that was about the point they started floundering, and then it just survived for several more years and never quite took off again. And now we haven't seen a Bond game in ages. And now it's the Hitman devs.
IO have been working on that for God knows how many years at this point, but it'll be exciting. I mean, there's been a lot of cool articles about like how fucking Hitman 3 is just full of really nice looking villains' lairs, like real 1960s Bonds. And it's like, okay, these are the right developers for it. Let's see what they do.
No, it's like if you ever played a Hitman game, it's like this is the perfect hands for like they've got to jazz it up a bit, make you a bit more suave, and maybe dial in on the social mechanics, and bang, you have a good-ass Bond game. And
it's funny because all the Bond games I remember playing are just like FPS in Bonds. Like, they don't feel like Bond in the way that like you watch the old 60s films and most of them are just him drinking and talking to people in rooms, and then the end of the film might be him escaping from a lair. But like the Hitman devs know how to do that stuff really well. So
it's the thing about video games of capturing certain properties, and Bond is a particular one of them, is that games excel at the climaxes of Bond films, but nothing else. Like, you have your cool action bits, and you can maybe do a Call of Duty style Bond. They kind of did, but if you made a fleshed out story for it and you hit the set pieces, but all the in between would be like, how would you do that?
No, exactly. And it's funny because the Call of Duty games sort of became the Bond replace. I mean, I always think of what is it that Yahtzee said about Modern Warfare 2? It's just Bond goes to war, because there's no soldier on the face of this earth that does all the stuff that the fucking...
Like you play the jet ski sequence at the beginning of Modern Warfare 2, it's like, this is a Bond bit. This is something Bond would get away with, is like jet skiing down a mountain, dodging explosions.
You're climbing up a snowy mountain to infiltrate a base. Like, a single soldier doesn't do that in the real world, you know?
Yeah,
so.
I think that's just a way of putting it, is Call of Duty is just homoerotic Bond.
More homoerotic Bond.
More homoerotic.
Even that's what it says in the Call of Duty 2. Even more homoerotic Bond.
It's just gruff men. There's not a woman in sight unless you're gunning her down, and it's part of a war crime.
It's fine though. They've added girl bosses to the new Call of Duty games.
That's good. That's all right.
so
They've
good.
solved it then.
When are we doing the Call of Duty games on the podcast? I can't. They're too good. They sell too many copies.
I mean, they hit their mark of selling a lot of copies.
Yeah, unfortunately, and it's like and having an indelibly massive influence on FPS games. So, oh dear. Snake, thank you for joining. Thanks for staying on the call for another like 20 minutes, half an hour to do.
I just wanted to talk about it as I had stuff to say, and
yeah, sure.
Once you've passed the boundary of this is the longest episode, now it's like I've got to make sure it gets longer.
Oh, don't worry. The Haze episode, like, you know, because we did 1 hour, then 2 hours, then 3. Oh, yeah, don't worry. The Haze episode will be 4 hours long. It'll be great.
Nevin will lose his mind. Even if he defends Haze, he'll end hating it because of us.
Nevin will leave the call and then come back for the second part of the call, like, towards the last hour. It'll be good. I guess before we wrap up then, is there thank you once again for joining us for this series. Is there anything you'd like to promote? Anything you'd like to shout out while you're here?
I've already shouted out Pixel Lit. It's always this tricky thing. I think I'm good at the moment. Watch the Saints Row video if it's out by the time this episode comes out. That really dates the episode.
I imagine it probably will be at this point.
Yeah.
I imagine you're probably onto video. I was about to say video 2, like this is your first video. You'll be on to whatever I was after the Saints Row video at this point.
Okay, I'm going to shout out a game. Play Spark the Electric Jester, for the love of God.
Oh, yeah. Any of them are good.
Yeah, free is a banger. Even though this episode is coming out in 2023, best platformer 2022.
Yeah. It's a better Sonic the Hedgehog game than the one that came out in 22. And they had two Sonic the Hedgehog games in that year.
It's better than Frontiers, man. It's better than like any 3D Sonic game has been in like a decade or two. So, yeah, I quite like it. That's my plug.
Good. I've been James. As per usual, you can follow me on Twitter at HotCider, HOTCYDER. You can help support the podcast over at Patreon at HotCider as well. Guess to be decided for the next episode. It's still kind of up in the air at the moment, but as we've kind of alluded to, we've covered all the best games, all the best free radical games at this point.
Unless, as Charlie hopes and seems very assured about, Free Radical comes back and we find that future perfect. The future is very much imperfect right now. Yeah,
the future's kind of up in the air. Like this could just be the rise, fall, and rise again arc, but we're kind of. It's funny because I was going to say right at the beginning, like sort of in the episode that like. Future Perfect is where, like, if 2 is the peak, then 3 is, like, where it starts to go downhill, but not really. Like,
I think it's a different peak. It's in the
same... Yeah, exactly.
We're still in the mountain range.
The horizontal dip... Yeah.
Which one is higher really depends on where you're standing.
Yeah, and I think also just kind of what you prefer, maybe. Yeah.
Haze, though, oh god, Haze, we are not in the mountain range anymore. We are in a canyon.
Not to spoil the episode, Haze is not good, folks. Haze will be an interesting episode to dig into just in regards to, as Matt McMuscle says, what happened? What the fuck happened with Haze? Because, oh boy. So I hope you join us for us then. Until next time, though, folks, time to split.
I mean, that's better than the usual sign-off, so...
I don't know. People love Keep Blasting. You can't stop telling me how much they like...
Keep splitting.
Keep splitting, folks.
Oh,
The Bullet Time podcast is made possible by Eric Hamilton Schneider, Valerie B, VG, and the Hot Cider support tier. If you'd like to help with the production of episodes and gain access to extra content, consider supporting over at patreon.com/Hot Cider. That's HOTCYDER. A special thanks to Max Coburn for the Bullet Time theme tune.